A desperate mountain man walks into a saloon demanding a wife before sunrise, or two orphaned children lose their only chance at survival. The room explodes in mockery until he reveals the truth. Without a family, the law will rip those kids from the only home they've ever known. As laughter dies and silence takes hold, one broken woman rises from the shadows. What happens next will prove that the strongest families aren't born from love. They're forged in fire. Stay until the end. Hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The door to McGrath's saloon slammed open hard enough to rattle the oil lamps hanging from the ceiling. Every head turned toward the sound. Miners mid-drink, card players mid-deal, the piano player's fingers freezing on yellowed keys. Cold November air rushed in, carrying the smell of pine and snow from the mountains beyond Bitterroot, Wyoming. The man who filled the doorway wasn't the kind you forgot. Rowan Hale stood maybe 6'3" in his worn boots, shoulders broad from years of hauling traps and splitting wood. His beard was thick and unkempt, streaked with early gray, despite him being no more than 35. His coat, patched leather that had seen better decades, hung open despite the cold, revealing a faded wool shirt and suspenders that had been mended more times than replaced. Everything about him spoke of the high country, rough, weathered, built to endure. But it was his eyes that made people look twice. Dark brown, red-rimmed from lack of sleep, they carried something desperate. Something that didn't belong on a man who looked like he could break a horse with his bare hands. "I need a wife," he said. The words cut through the tobacco smoke and whiskey fumes like a knife. For a moment, nobody moved. Then someone near the bar snorted. Another man chuckled. Within seconds, the entire saloon erupted in laughter so loud it shook dust from the rafters. "Hell, hail, don't we all?" shouted a grizzled miner named Carson, slapping his knee. "Maybe try a bathhouse first," another voice called out. "It might improve your odds." "Or a bath in general," someone else added, setting off another round of guffaws. Rowan didn't smile, didn't move. He stood there, jaw tight, hands clenched at his sides, waiting for the noise to die down. It took longer than it should have. These were men who spent their days breaking rocks or skinning animals. They took their entertainment where they could find it, and a desperate mountain man asking for a bride was comedy gold. Finally, when the laughter began to ebb, Rowan spoke again. His voice was rough, unpracticed at public speaking, but it carried weight. "I got 2 children up at my cabin." That got their attention. The chuckling faded to scattered murmurs. "Didn't know you had kids, Hale," said McGrath, the saloon owner, a thick-necked Irishman with a scar running from his eye to his jaw. He leaned against the bar, arms crossed. "Thought you lived alone up there." "I did, until 3 weeks ago." Rowan pulled off his hat, worrying the brim between calloused fingers. "Found them on the North Trail. Their wagon had gone over the side. Parents were dead, probably a day already. Little girl couldn't have been more than 4. Boy was maybe 7. They were just sitting there in the cold, waiting. The room had gone quiet now. That particular stretch of trail was notorious. Steep, rocky, unforgiving. Wagons went over the edge every year, especially when the weather turned. Most times, there were no survivors. "Brought them back to my place," Rowan continued. "Fed them, kept them warm. Figured someone would come looking. Family, somebody. Nobody did." "That's rough," McGrath said, his tone more subdued. "But what's that got to do with needing a wife?" Rowan's jaw worked like he was chewing on something bitter. "Judge Whitmore came by yesterday. Someone in town must have told him about the kids. He said if I can't provide a proper home, meaning a mother, a family, he's taking them to the territorial orphanage in Laramie. Gives me until tomorrow morning to prove I got a household fit for raising children." "Orphanage?" Carson made a face. "Those places are death traps." "I know it." Rowan's voice was flat, but his knuckles were white around his hat brim. "I've been to Laramie. I seen that building. It's overcrowded, underfed, disease running through it every winter. Kids go in there. They don't come out the same. If they come out at all." The silence stretched. Men shifted in their seats, suddenly uncomfortable. Some stared into their drinks. "So you need a wife by morning," McGrath said slowly, "or the judge takes them." "That's the size of it." Another voice spoke up from the back. A younger man, barely 20, with the cocky grin of someone who hadn't yet learned when to keep his mouth shut. "Hell, Hale, you can't just walk in here and expect some woman to marry you overnight. This ain't a livestock auction." I know what it sounds like, Rowan said. I ain't stupid, but I'm out of options. I can't let those kids go to that place. I can't. Why not? The young man pressed. I mean, it seems like it'd be easier for everyone. You go back to your mountain, the kids get proper care. Proper care? Rowan's voice went sharp. You ever been inside one of those places, boy? They pack kids in like cordwood, feed them gruel that wouldn't keep a dog alive, work them till they drop. The little girl, she ain't spoke a word since I found her. Not one. She just stares. You think that orphanage is going to help her talk again? The young man shut his mouth. Rowan took a breath, trying to rein himself in. Look, I ain't asking for love. I ain't asking for anything but help. I got a cabin. It's solid, keeps the wind out. I got food stored for winter. I trap, I hunt, I can provide. I just need someone to stand there tomorrow morning when the judge comes. Someone to prove to him those kids got a home. After that, he shrugged, helpless. I don't know. We figure it out. You're talking about a marriage of convenience, McGrath said. I guess so. Yeah. And what's in it for whoever agrees to this? Rowan hesitated. I got some money saved. Not much, but nobody's marrying you for money, Hale, McGrath cut him off. You got about $40 to your name if I'm generous. That won't even cover a winter's worth of flour. Then what do I offer? Rowan's voice cracked slightly. What the hell do I got that would make someone help me? No one answered. The question hung there, uncomfortable and unanswerable. From across the room, a card player cleared his throat. You know what your problem is, Hale? You're asking people to take on someone else's burden. Those kids ain't yours by blood. They ain't yours by law. They're just strays you picked up. Most folks got enough trouble keeping their own selves alive without taking on yours too. Rowan's hands tightened on his hat. They're children. Sure, and that's real sad. But it ain't our problem. Then whose problem is it? Rowan shot back. They didn't ask to be orphaned, didn't ask for their parents to die on that trail. They're 4 and 7 years old. What are they supposed to do? That's between them and fate, the card player said with a shrug. World's hard, people die, kids suffer. It ain't fair, but it's how things are. Rowan stared at him for a long moment, then he turned, his gaze sweeping across the saloon, taking in all the faces, some sympathetic, most carefully neutral, a few outright hostile. I know what you all think, he said quietly. You think I'm a fool. Some mountain hermit who don't know the first thing about raising kids, trying to play at being a father. Maybe you're right, but I'll tell you what I do know. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I know what it's like to be alone, to have nobody. I grew up in a mining camp in Colorado. My pa died in a collapse when I was 8. My ma from fever 2 years after that. I got passed around between families who didn't want me, worked for my keep until I was big enough to leave. I've been on my own since I was 14, and I survived it, but I remember what it felt like. That emptiness, that feeling like you don't matter to anyone. His voice roughened. When I found those kids sitting by that wagon, the little girl had her arms around her brother, and they were both just waiting for someone to tell them what to do, where to go. And I looked at them and I thought, I can't leave them here. I can't let them go through what I went through, so I didn't. That's real noble, the card player said, his tone suggesting it was anything but. But noble don't feed kids. Noble don't keep them warm. You got a cabin barely big enough for one person. You're gone half the winter running trap lines. What kind of life is that for children? A better one than Laramie, Rowan said flatly. You don't know that. Yes, I do. The card player shook his head, returning to his hand. You're wasting your time here, Hale. Nobody's going to help you. Rowan stood there a moment longer, scanning the room one last time. Most people had already gone back to their drinks, their games, their conversations. The interruption was over. The entertainment had passed. He put his hat back on, pulling it low. Yeah, he said quietly. I guess not. He was halfway to the door when a voice cut through the noise, quiet but clear. Wait, the word didn't come from the bar or the tables. It came from the darkest corner of the saloon where the lamplight barely reached. A figure stood up from a small table near the back wall, moving into the dim glow. Eliza Thorne. The room went still again, but this time the silence had a different quality. Surprise? Confusion. A few whispers. Nobody talked to Eliza Thorne anymore. She'd been part of the town once. Her husband had been a carpenter, well-liked, good with his hands. They'd had a daughter, a sweet little thing with blonde curls. Then 3 years ago, a late spring fever swept through Bitterroot, the kind that took the very young and left everyone else to bury them. The daughter died first. The husband went 2 weeks later, some said from the same fever. Others whispered he couldn't live with the grief and drank himself into the ground. Eliza had buried them both in the cemetery outside town, and after that she just faded. She worked as a seamstress, taking in mending and alterations, living in a tiny room above the dry goods store. She came to the saloon sometimes, not to drink, just to sit in the corner with a cup of coffee, watching the world go by like she was studying something she couldn't quite understand anymore. People left her alone. It was the polite thing to do. But now she was walking forward, weaving between tables, and every eye in the place tracked her movement. She was maybe 30, though grief had a way of making people look older. Her dress was plain gray wool, mended carefully at the seams. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple bun, revealing a face that might have been pretty once, but now just looked tired. Her eyes were blue, pale, like winter sky, and they held something that made people look away. She stopped a few feet from Rowan, studying him with that unsettling directness. "You're serious about this," she said. Not a question. Rowan blinked, caught off guard. "Yeah, I'm serious. The children, you really won't let them go to the orphanage?" "Not if I can help it." Eliza was quiet for a moment, her gaze moving over him, taking in the patched coat, the worn boots, the lines around his eyes that came from squinting into winter sun. "What are their names?" Rowan faltered. "The boy says his name is Samuel. The girl won't talk. I've been calling her Anna because their mother had a locket with that name inside, but I don't know if it's hers or—" "Do they sleep through the night?" "Samuel does. Anna wakes up sometimes, bad dreams, I think." "What do you feed them?" "Venison, mostly, some potatoes, bread when I bake it, but I ain't much of a hand at baking. Oats in the morning." "Do they go outside?" "When it's not snowing. I got a shed they like to play in. It's got some old tools. Nothing dangerous. Samuel tries to chop wood like me. Anna just sits." Eliza absorbed this, her expression unreadable. Then she asked the question that made the entire room lean forward to hear. "If I agree to this, if I stand beside you tomorrow and become your wife in name, will you be kind to them?" Rowan stared at her. Of all the questions he'd expected, about money, about living conditions, about what she'd get out of the arrangement, this one blindsided him. "Kind?" he repeated. "Yes, kind." She stepped closer, and her voice dropped, but it didn't lose its edge. "Not perfect, not even good necessarily, but kind. Will you feed them when they're hungry? Keep them warm when they're cold? Speak gentle when they're scared? Will you try?" The saloon held its breath. Rowan's throat worked. "I don't know nothing about raising kids," he said slowly. "I never had any of my own. I don't know how to talk to them, or what to do when they cry, or any of it, but I swear to you I will do my best. I'll keep them fed, I'll keep them safe. I won't raise a hand to them in anger, He trailed off, searching for words. "I'll try. That's all I can promise. I'll try." Eliza studied him for a long moment. The lamplight caught the side of her face, highlighting the small scar on her jaw she'd gotten from some long-ago accident. Her eyes were unreadable. Then she nodded, once. "All right." The room erupted. "Eliza, are you insane?" someone shouted. "You don't even know him." "This is madness." McGrath pushed off the bar, hands up. "Hold on now, everyone just— Eliza, you sure about this? You don't have to—" "I know I don't have to," Eliza said quietly, but her voice cut through the noise like a blade. "I'm choosing to." She turned back to Rowan. "I have conditions." "All right. I'll marry you tomorrow. I'll stand before the judge and say whatever needs saying to keep those children with you. But after that, I want to meet them. See the cabin. Make sure they're truly safe. If I don't like what I see, if you've lied to me or if those children are suffering, I'll leave and I'll take them with me. Understand?" "Understood." "I'll need my own space. A corner of the cabin, a room if there is one, somewhere I can be alone when I need to be." "There's a loft. It ain't much, but it'll do." "Anything else?" Eliza's jaw tightened. "Don't expect me to love you. Don't expect me to be a wife in any way but name. I'll help with the children because they need it and because I can't stand the thought of them in that orphanage. But that's all this is. Help, not love. I ain't asking for love, Rowan said. I'm asking for help, that's all. She searched his face one more time, looking for a lie, a crack, something that would tell her this was a mistake. Whatever she saw, or didn't see, made her nod again. Then we have an agreement. Rowan exhaled, the tension bleeding out of his shoulders. Thank you. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Eliza didn't smile. Don't thank me yet. We'll see if you still feel that way come spring. She turned toward the door, then paused. The judge comes at dawn? That's what he said. Then I'll meet you at the church at first light. We'll need a witness. McGrath, will you stand for us? The saloon owner blinked, surprised. Yeah, I'll do it. Good. Eliza pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders. Get some sleep, Mr. Hale. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. She walked out into the cold November night without looking back. Rowan stood there, hat in hand, staring at the door she'd just disappeared through. Around him, the saloon slowly came back to life, conversations resuming, cards being dealt, drinks being poured. But the energy had changed. People were talking about what had just happened, voices low and uncertain. That woman's lost her mind, someone muttered. Or maybe she's the only sane one here, someone else replied. McGrath walked over to Rowan, wiping down a glass with a rag that had seen better days. You know what you just got yourself into? No idea, Rowan admitted. Eliza Thorne ain't been right since she lost her family. She barely talks, barely eats. Some days I think she's just going through the motions of being alive without really living. McGrath set the glass down. But I'll say this, she's a good woman, honest, fair. If she agreed to help you, she'll see it through. I believe that. But don't expect miracles. Don't expect her to heal overnight just because there's kids around. Grief don't work that way. Rowan nodded. I ain't expecting anything. I'm just grateful she's willing to try. McGrath studied him. You really gonna do right by those kids? I'm gonna try. That's all any of us can do, I suppose. McGrath poured a shot of whiskey, slid it across the bar. On the house. You look like you need it. Rowan drank it in one swallow, the burn grounding him. He set the glass down carefully, pulled a few coins from his pocket, enough to cover a drink he hadn't paid for, and nodded his thanks. Then he walked out into the same cold night that had swallowed Eliza, pulling his coat tight against the wind. The streets of Bitterroot were dark, except for scattered lamplight from windows. Most folks had already turned in for the night. It was after 9, and in a town where people rose with the sun, that was late. Rowan's horse, a sturdy roan mare named Greta, was tied outside the saloon, stamping her feet against the cold. He untied her, swung into the saddle, and turned her toward the mountain trail. The ride back took an hour in good weather. Tonight, with ice forming on the ground and clouds blocking the moon, it would take longer, but Rowan didn't mind. He needed the time to think. What had he just done? He'd walked into a saloon and asked a stranger to marry him. And somehow, impossibly, she'd agreed. Eliza Thorne. He knew the name, knew the story. Everyone in Bitterroot did. A woman who'd lost everything and kept living anyway, which was either the bravest or most tragic thing Rowan could imagine. Maybe both. And now she was going to be his wife. In name only, she'd said. Don't expect love. He didn't. He'd stopped expecting much of anything years ago. Love was for people who had the luxury of it. People with stable lives, safe homes, futures that stretched beyond the next winter. People like him learned to be grateful for survival. But still, the weight of what he was asking her to do, to step into his life, to help raise children who weren't hers, to tie herself to a man she barely knew. It sat heavy in his chest. I'll make it work, he told himself. I have to. The cabin came into view around midnight, a dark shape against darker trees. It was small, just one main room with a loft above, a stone fireplace, a few pieces of rough furniture Rowan had built himself. Not much, but it was solid, warm, safe. He tied Greta in the lean-to beside the cabin, made sure she had water and feed, then pushed open the door as quietly as he could. The fire had burned down to embers, but there was still enough light to see by. Samuel was asleep on a bedroll near the hearth, curled up with a blanket Rowan had given him. His dark hair stuck up at odd angles, and his face, so serious when he was awake, looked peaceful. Anna was awake. She sat on the other bedroll, knees pulled to her chest, staring at the dying fire. When Rowan entered, she didn't look at him, didn't acknowledge him at all. He'd been trying for 3 weeks to get her to speak, to smile, to do anything that suggested she was still in there, still capable of being a child. So far, nothing had worked. Rowan moved quietly across the cabin, adding wood to the fire. The flames caught, casting warm light across the room. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked softly. Anna didn't answer. "That's all right. Sometimes I can't either." He sat down on the floor a few feet away, careful not to crowd her. "I got some news today. Good news, I think." She still didn't look at him, but he thought, maybe, her head tilted slightly toward his voice. "There's going to be a lady coming to live with us. Her name's Eliza. She's going to help take care of you and Samuel, make sure you're all right." He paused. "The judge, the man who came by yesterday. He won't take you away now. You get to stay here, both of you." Anna's fingers tightened on the blanket, just barely. It was the most reaction he'd seen from her in days. "I know it's a lot of change," Rowan continued, "and I know you probably don't understand all of it. But I promise you, Anna, I ain't gonna let anything bad happen to you. You're safe here." For a long moment, there was only the crackle of the fire. Then, so quietly he almost missed it, Anna whispered something. Rowan went still. "What was that, sweetheart?" She turned her head, just a fraction, and her pale blue eyes met his. Her voice was barely audible, rough from disuse. "Mama's gone." Rowan's throat tightened. "I know. I'm sorry." "She's not coming back." "No, she's not." Anna looked back at the fire. "Papa neither." "No." The little girl was quiet for a long time. Then, "Will you go away too?" And there it was, the fear beneath everything, the reason she didn't speak, didn't play, didn't trust. She was 4 years old, and she'd learned that people disappeared, that safety was temporary, that nothing lasted. Rowan wanted to promise her he wouldn't leave, that he'd be here forever, that she'd never lose anyone again. But he'd learned young that promises like that were lies, and he wouldn't lie to her. "I'm going to do everything I can to stay," he said instead. "I'm going to work hard and be careful and try my best to be here for you and Samuel. But Anna, I can't promise nothing bad will ever happen. Life don't work that way." She absorbed this, her small face serious. "What I can promise," Rowan added, "is that while I'm here you're safe, you're fed, you're warm, and I'll fight like hell to keep it that way. All right?" Anna didn't answer, but after a moment she lay down on her bedroll, pulling the blanket up to her chin. Rowan took it as progress. He sat there until her breathing evened out, until he was sure she was asleep. Then he stood, banked the fire, and climbed the ladder to the loft where he'd been sleeping since the kids arrived. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, he'd stand before a judge and marry a woman he didn't know, binding their lives together in hope that it would be enough to save 2 children who'd already lost too much. Tomorrow, he'd find out if desperation and kindness were enough to build something resembling a family. He lay on the narrow cot, staring at the rough wooden beams above his head, and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the shutters. Winter was coming. The hard months, when the cold bit deep and the snow piled high, and survival took everything you had. Rowan closed his eyes, and he prayed, not to any god in particular, just to whoever might be listening, that he hadn't just made the biggest mistake of his life. Dawn came cold and gray. Rowan woke before the sun, as he always did, and climbed down from the loft to find both children still asleep. He dressed quietly, pulling on his cleanest shirt, which wasn't saying much, and the one pair of trousers without holes. He ran a comb through his hair and beard, trying to look at least marginally presentable. Samuel stirred as Rowan was pulling on his boots. "Where you going?" the boy asked, voice thick with sleep. "Town. I got something I need to do. Can I come?" "Not this time, but I'll be back soon, I promise. You keep an eye on Anna, all right?" Samuel nodded, already half asleep again. Rowan left oats and dried venison on the table, made sure the fire was built up, then headed out into the pre-dawn darkness. The ride to town took 45 minutes at a steady pace. By the time he reached the church, a small white building with a crooked steeple, the sky was just starting to lighten, turning from black to deep blue. Eliza was already there. She stood on the church steps, wrapped in a dark cloak, her breath misting in the cold air. When she saw him, she didn't smile, but she nodded. McGrath arrived a few minutes later, looking like he'd had about as much sleep as Rowan. "Morning," he muttered. "Let's get this done before I lose my nerve as a witness." The Reverend was a tired old man named Patterson who'd been running the church for 30 years and had seen just about everything. When Rowan explained what they needed, Patterson didn't even blink. "Marriage of convenience to save orphans from the territorial system," he said. "Not the strangest thing I've officiated. You both understand this is legally binding?" "We do," Eliza said. "And you're entering this of your own free will?" "Yes." Patterson looked at Rowan. "You?" "Yes, sir." "All right then. Let's make it official before Judge Whitmore shows up and complicates things." The ceremony was brief. No music, no flowers, no guests beyond McGrath. Patterson read from a worn Bible, asked the required questions, and pronounced them husband and wife in less than 10 minutes. "You may kiss the bride," Patterson added, more out of habit than expectation. Rowan and Eliza looked at each other. After a moment, Eliza offered her hand. Rowan shook it. "That'll do," Patterson said dryly. They signed the certificate, Rowan's handwriting rough and uneven, Eliza's neat and precise. And just like that, it was done. Rowan Hale and Eliza Thorne were married. McGrath clapped Rowan on the shoulder. "Congratulations, I think." "Thanks." Eliza pulled her cloak tighter. "When does the judge arrive?" "He said dawn, could be any time now." They didn't have to wait long. 20 minutes later, a black carriage rolled into town, pulled by 2 horses. Judge Whitmore stepped out, a thin, severe man in his 50s with steel-gray hair and a permanent expression of disapproval. He spotted Rowan standing outside the church and approached, his face already set in the lines of someone about to deliver bad news. "Mr. Hale," he said curtly, "I trust you've had time to make arrangements." "I have, Your Honor." Rowan gestured to Eliza. "This is my wife, Eliza. We were married this morning." Whitmore's eyebrows climbed toward his hairline. "Your wife?" "Yes, sir." The judge looked at Eliza, then back at Rowan, suspicion written all over his face. "This is very sudden." "Yes, sir, it is. But it's legal." Reverend Patterson performed the ceremony. McGrath witnessed it. "We got the certificate right here." Rowan pulled the paper from his coat, handed it over. Whitmore examined it with the thoroughness of a man looking for any excuse to reject it. But the document was in order, signed, dated, official. "This doesn't change the fact that you're barely equipped to raise children," Whitmore said. "A marriage certificate doesn't make you a father." "No, sir, but it proves I got a household, a family, which is what you said I needed. A family you assembled overnight. Assembled or not, it's legal. And it's real." Rowan met the judge's eyes. "Those kids need a home. I'm offering them one. My wife's offering them one. We're asking you to let us try." Whitmore was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to Eliza. "Mrs. Hale, do you understand what you're agreeing to?" "I do," Eliza said quietly. "Raising orphaned children is no small task, especially in circumstances like these, isolated, winter coming on. Are you prepared for that?" "I am." "Why?" The question hung there, blunt and invasive. Eliza's jaw tightened. "Because they're children," she said, "and they deserve better than an overcrowded orphanage where half the kids don't survive the winter. If I can help prevent that, I will." Whitmore studied her. Whatever he saw in her face seemed to satisfy something, because he sighed, folding the marriage certificate and handing it back to Rowan. "Very well. I'll allow it, for now. But I'll be checking in come spring. If I find those children neglected, malnourished, or mistreated in any way, they'll be removed immediately. Understood?" "Understood," Rowan said. "Then I suppose this matter is settled." Whitmore climbed back into his carriage without another word, and within moments he was gone. Rowan exhaled slowly, the tension bleeding out of him all at once. "We did it. For now," Eliza said. She turned to him. "I'd like to see the cabin. Meet the children." "Of course. We can head up there now if you're ready." "I need to collect my things first. Give me an hour." "I'll meet you at the edge of town." Eliza nodded and walked away, her cloak billowing behind her. McGrath watched her go, then turned to Rowan. "You sure about this?" "No," Rowan admitted. "But it's done now." "That it is." McGrath clapped him on the shoulder again. Good luck, Hale. You're gonna need it. That. An hour later, Rowan and Eliza rode out of Bitterroot together. She'd packed light, one trunk of clothes, a sewing kit, a few personal items. Everything she owned fit on the back of a rented mule. As they climbed the trail toward the cabin, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable exactly, but it was heavy with unasked questions and uncertain futures. When the cabin came into view, Eliza reined in her mule, studying it. It's small, Rowan said, suddenly self-conscious. But it's solid. The roof don't leak, and the walls keep the wind out. It's fine, Eliza said. She dismounted, tied the mule, and followed him inside. Samuel and Anna were at the table, eating the oats Rowan had left. They both looked up when the door opened, eyes going wide at the sight of a stranger. Samuel, Anna, Rowan said gently. This is Eliza. She's going to be living with us now, helping take care of you. Samuel frowned. Why? Because you need more than just me stumbling through things. Rowan looked at Eliza, who was staring at the children with an expression he couldn't quite read. Eliza, these are the kids I told you about. Eliza stepped closer, slowly, like she was approaching wild animals. She crouched down so she was at eye level with Anna. Hello, she said softly. Anna stared at her, silent. My name's Eliza. What's yours? No answer. Samuel spoke up. She don't talk much. Her name's Anna. I'm Samuel. It's nice to meet you, Samuel. Eliza's voice was steady, calm. I know this must be strange, having someone new show up, but I promise, I'm here to help, not to hurt. Samuel eyed her warily. You Rowan's wife? Yes. You gonna stay? Eliza glanced at Rowan, then back at the boy. I'm gonna try. It wasn't the answer Samuel wanted, but it was honest. He seemed to accept it, returning to his oats. Eliza stood, looking around the cabin, at the rough furniture, the stone fireplace, the narrow loft. Where do the children sleep? Down here, by the fire. I've been sleeping up in the loft. And where will I sleep? The loft, if that's all right. I can make up a bedroll down here. Eliza shook her head. No, you keep the loft. I'll take the space by the fireplace with the children. They'll need someone close at night. Rowan started to protest, then stopped. She was right. Anna woke up from nightmares. Samuel sometimes called out in his sleep. They needed someone nearby. All right, he said. If you're sure. I'm sure. They spent the rest of the day settling Eliza in. Rowan helped her carry her trunk inside, set up a corner of the cabin with a curtain for privacy. Eliza unpacked efficiently, hanging her few dresses on pegs, storing her sewing supplies in a small chest. The children watched her with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Samuel asked questions. Where was she from? Did she know how to cook? Did she have any kids of her own? Eliza answered patiently, without elaborating. Anna just stared. By evening, the cabin had shifted. It felt different, fuller somehow. The addition of one person shouldn't have changed the atmosphere so much, but it did. Eliza cooked dinner. Rowan had offered, but she'd waved him off, taking stock of his supplies and making a simple stew with venison, potatoes, and carrots. It was better than anything Rowan had managed in weeks. They ate in near silence, the only sounds the crackle of the fire and the scrape of spoons against bowls. After dinner, Eliza cleaned up while Rowan checked the stock and made sure everything was secured for the night. When he came back inside, Samuel was already asleep, curled up in his bedroll. Anna was awake, watching Eliza fold a blanket. Rowan climbed the ladder to the loft, exhaustion pulling at him. Below, he heard Eliza's voice, soft and low. Anna, she said, if you ever want to talk, I'll listen. But if you don't, that's all right too. You take your time. There was no response. But Rowan thought maybe he heard the rustle of Anna shifting slightly closer. He lay on his cot, staring at the ceiling. One day down, a lifetime to go. The first week passed in a kind of careful silence, everyone moving around each other like strangers sharing a too-small room. Eliza woke before dawn each morning, started the fire, made breakfast. Rowan tended to the animals, checked the trap lines, chopped wood. The children existed in the spaces between, Samuel helping where he could, Anna watching everything with those pale, wary eyes. Nobody talked much. There didn't seem to be anything to say. On the 8th day, The first real snow came. Rowan woke to find the world outside transformed. Everything buried under 6 inches of white, the kind of snow that wouldn't melt until spring. He dressed quickly, knowing what it meant. The trails would be harder now, the work slower, everything more difficult. When he climbed down from the loft, Eliza was already up, standing at the window with a cup of coffee. "It's early this year," she said without turning around. "Yeah." Rowan pulled on his coat. "I need to check the traps before they get buried deeper. Might be gone most of the day." "The children?" "They'll stay inside. Too cold for them out there." Eliza nodded. "I'll keep them occupied." Rowan hesitated at the door. "You need anything from town? I could swing by on the way back if—" "We're fine." He left without another word. The trapline was brutal. The snow made everything take 3 times as long, and by the time Rowan finished checking all 15 traps, his fingers were numb despite his gloves. He'd caught 2 rabbits and a fox, decent enough, though not great. He'd need better luck if they were going to make it through winter. By the time he got back to the cabin, it was late afternoon. He could smell something cooking before he even opened the door. Bread, he thought, and maybe stew. Inside, the cabin was warm. Samuel sat at the table, carving something from a piece of wood with Rowan's spare knife. Anna was on the floor near the fire, and Eliza was teaching her to sew. Rowan stopped in the doorway, snow falling off his coat. Anna had a scrap of fabric in her small hands, a needle threaded with dark thread. Eliza knelt beside her, guiding her fingers, showing her how to make the stitches even. "Like this," Eliza was saying softly. "Not too tight, or the fabric bunches. See? There you go." Anna's face was intensely focused, her tongue poking out slightly between her lips as she concentrated. She didn't look up when Rowan entered, didn't acknowledge him at all. But she was doing something, participating, trying. Samuel glanced up. "You're back." "Yeah." Rowan shook the snow off, hung his coat by the door. "What are you making there?" "Dunno yet. Maybe a whistle." The boy held up the wood. It was rough, uneven, but he was working at it with determination. "That's good work." Samuel shrugged, but Rowan could see the pleased look on his face. Eliza stood, brushing off her skirt. "There's stew on the fire, and bread cooling. Smells good. It's edible." They ate dinner the way they'd eaten every meal for the past week, quietly, efficiently, without much conversation. But something felt different tonight, less tense maybe, or just less strange. After dinner, Samuel helped clear the table while Eliza washed the dishes. Anna stayed by the fire, still working on her sewing, her stitches crooked but earnest. Rowan sat near the hearth, cleaning the rabbits he'd caught, preparing them for smoking. The work was familiar, meditative. His hands knew what to do without thinking. "Samuel," Eliza said from the wash basin, "it's time to get ready for bed." "Do I have to?" "Yes." "But I'm not even tired." "You will be in the morning if you don't sleep now." The boy grumbled but didn't argue further. He put away his carving, changed into the nightshirt Eliza had mended for him, and climbed into his bedroll. Anna followed without being asked, settling into her own blankets. Eliza sat between them, her back against the stone hearth. "Would you like a story?" Samuel perked up. "What kind of story?" "What kind would you like?" "One with adventure, and maybe a sword." "I don't know many stories with swords." Eliza thought for a moment. "But I know one about a girl who lived in a lighthouse." "What's a lighthouse?" "A tall tower by the ocean with a light on top. It guides ships safely to shore." Samuel frowned. "What's an ocean?" Eliza's expression flickered, surprise maybe, or sadness. These children had grown up in the mountains. They'd probably never seen anything bigger than a creek. "It's like a lake," she said, "but so big you can't see the other side. And it has waves, big rolling walls of water that crash against the shore." "That sounds scary." "It can be. But it's beautiful too." She told them the story, something about a lighthouse keeper's daughter who saved a ship during a storm. Rowan half listened while he worked, her voice a low murmur in the background. She was good at it, he noticed. She changed her tone for different characters, paused at the right moments, kept the children engaged. By the time she finished, Anna's eyes were drooping. Samuel was fighting sleep, but losing. "Tomorrow," he mumbled. "Tell another one tomorrow." "We'll see," Eliza said. She stayed there until both children were asleep, their breathing slow and even. Then she stood, moving quietly across the cabin to her corner behind the curtain. Rowan finished with the rabbits, washed his hands, banked the fire. He was halfway up the ladder when Eliza's voice stopped him. "Mr. Hale." He looked down. She'd pulled the curtain back slightly, enough to see her face in the firelight. "Yes?" She hesitated, like she was weighing whether to say something. Then, "You were kind to them today." Rowan blinked. "I wasn't even here most of the day." "I know, but when you came back you didn't ignore them. You asked about Samuel's carving. You didn't make Anna feel bad for not greeting you. Small things, but they matter." He didn't know what to say to that. "Thank you," Eliza added quietly, "for trying." Before he could respond, she pulled the curtain closed. Rowan climbed to the loft, her words following him. He lay on his cot, staring at the dark ceiling, and wondered if maybe, just maybe, this arrangement might actually work. The snow kept falling. By the end of the second week, they were buried under 2 feet of it. The world beyond the cabin became a white wilderness, beautiful and hostile in equal measure. Rowan's traplines were harder to check, the game scarcer. Some days he came back with nothing. But inside the cabin, something was shifting. It started small. Anna began helping Eliza with simple tasks, folding blankets, setting the table. She still didn't speak, but she responded to instructions with nods or shakes of her head. Once, Eliza asked her to fetch the broom, and Anna did it without hesitation. Samuel talked more. He asked Rowan questions while they worked. How to tell if a trap was set right, why you salted meat to preserve it, how deep the snow would get. Rowan answered as best he could, surprised by how much the boy wanted to learn. Eliza cooked. She took Rowan's meager supplies and turned them into meals that actually tasted like something. She baked bread that didn't come out like rocks. She made a rabbit stew with herbs she'd brought from town that made the cabin smell like a real home. And slowly, bit by bit, they developed routines. Mornings, Eliza woke first, started the fire. Rowan came down, dressed, ate whatever she'd made. The children woke shortly after, groggy and rumpled. Days. Rowan worked outside when the weather allowed, checking traps, chopping wood, maintaining the cabin's exterior. Samuel usually tagged along, trying to help even when he mostly got in the way. Eliza stayed inside with Anna, teaching her to sew, to cook, to read from the one book they had, a battered copy of folk tales Eliza had brought with her. Evenings, dinner, then quiet work by the fire. Rowan mending tools or tanning hides, Eliza sewing or knitting, the children playing quietly with whatever they could find, Samuel's growing collection of carved wood, Anna's scraps of fabric, nights, Eliza's stories. She told them every evening now, and both children waited for it like it was the best part of their day. It wasn't perfect. There were hard moments, like the day Samuel asked about his parents. They were outside, Rowan showing him how to split kindling. The boy had been quiet all morning, working with unusual intensity. Finally he stopped, the axe hanging loose in his hands. "Do you think they're watching us?" he asked. Rowan paused mid-swing. "Who?" "My ma and pa. Do you think they can see us? From wherever they are?" The question hit Rowan like a fist to the chest. He set down his axe, trying to figure out how to answer. "I don't know, Samuel. Eliza says some people think so, that folks who die can look down and see their families." "What do you think?" Samuel's face scrunched up. "I don't know either. Sometimes I try to talk to them. In my head. I tell them what I did that day or ask them questions, but they don't answer. That must be hard." "Yeah." The boy's voice got smaller. "I'm starting to forget what they looked like. Ma's face is getting blurry in my head, and Pa's voice, I can't remember what it sounded like anymore." Rowan crouched down so he was at eye level with the boy. "That's normal, Samuel. It don't mean you're forgetting them. It just means time's passing." "But I don't want to forget." "Then don't. Hold on to what you do remember, the important stuff, how they made you feel, the things they taught you, the way they loved you. That stuff don't fade as easy." Samuel wiped his nose with his sleeve. "Do you think they'd be mad that we're here with you and Eliza instead of them?" "No," Rowan said firmly. "I think they'd be grateful. Grateful that you and Anna are safe and warm and fed. That's what parents want, for their kids to be okay. Even if we're with strangers? We ain't strangers anymore." Samuel thought about that. Then he picked up the axe again. Can we keep working? I don't want to think about it anymore. Yeah, we can keep working. They split wood until Samuel's arms got tired, neither of them talking. That night, Samuel cried in his sleep. Eliza sat with him, not saying anything, just being there. When he woke up, confused and upset, she gave him water and waited until he calmed down enough to sleep again. Rowan watched from the loft, feeling useless. Then there was Anna. 3 weeks in, she still hadn't spoken. She communicated through nods, shakes, and the occasional tug on someone's sleeve. Eliza didn't push, but Rowan could see the worry in her eyes sometimes when she looked at the girl. One afternoon, Rowan came back from checking the traps to find Eliza sitting at the table, her face tight with frustration. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Anna won't eat." Rowan looked over. The little girl sat on her bedroll, arms crossed, staring at the floor. A bowl of stew sat untouched on the table. "She's sick?" "I don't think so. She just refuses." "Did something happen?" Eliza shook her head. "I asked her to put away her sewing supplies. She didn't want to. I told her she had to before dinner. She's been like this ever since." Rowan approached Anna slowly. "Hey, sweetheart, you need to eat." No response. "Come on now. Eliza worked hard on that stew." Anna's jaw set in a stubborn line. Rowan sat down on the floor beside her, close but not touching. "I know you're upset. And that's all right. You're allowed to be upset, but you still got to eat. Your body needs it." "Nothing." "Tell you what," Rowan said. "You eat half that bowl and I'll teach you something tomorrow. Something special." That got a flicker of interest. Anna's eyes cut toward him. "I'll teach you how to whistle, like the birds. Would you like that?" A pause, then finally a small nod. "All right then, half the bowl." Anna stood, walked to the table, and ate exactly half the stew. Then she went back to her bedroll without a word. Eliza stared at Rowan. "How did you do that?" "I didn't do nothing, just gave her a reason. She's been testing me all day, pushing boundaries." "That's probably good, means she's feeling safe enough to push." Eliza rubbed her temples. "I don't know if I'm doing this right." "None of us know what we're doing," Rowan said. "We're just figuring it out as we go." "That's not very reassuring." "No, but it's honest." The next day, true to his word, Rowan taught Anna how to whistle. It took most of the afternoon. Her first attempts produced nothing but air. But she kept trying, determination written all over her small face. Finally, around dusk, she managed it. A small, clear note that cut through the cabin. Her eyes went wide with surprise. Then she did it again, and again. Samuel looked up from his carving. "Hey, that's good." Anna whistled louder, a grin spreading across her face, the first real smile Rowan had seen from her. Eliza watched from the hearth, something unreadable in her expression. That night, after the children were asleep, she spoke. "I wasn't sure if I could do this," she said quietly. Rowan had been about to climb to the loft. He paused. "Do what?" "This. Them." She gestured vaguely at the sleeping children. "I thought maybe I was too broken, that I didn't have anything left to give." "You're doing fine." "Am I?" Eliza's voice cracked slightly. "I don't feel like I am. I feel like I'm just going through the motions. Cooking, cleaning, telling stories, like I'm playing at being someone I'm not anymore." Rowan came back down the ladder, sat at the table across from her. "Who are you supposed to be?" "I don't know, someone better than this. This seems pretty good to me." Eliza shook her head. "You don't understand. When I lost my daughter, I lost—" She stopped, struggling. "I lost the part of me that knew how to care, how to feel things properly. I've been numb for 3 years, just existing. And now there are these children who need someone whole, someone capable, and I'm—" "You're here," Rowan interrupted. "That's what matters. You're showing up every day. You're trying. That's more than most people would do." "It doesn't feel like enough." "It's enough for them." Eliza was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Do you ever wish you hadn't found them? That you just kept riding that day?" Rowan considered the question honestly. "Sometimes, when it's hard. When I don't know what to do and I'm afraid I'm going to mess them up worse than they already are. Yeah, sometimes I wish things were simpler. But then Anna whistles, or Samuel asks me about trapping, or I hear you telling them stories and I think, this is better, harder, but better." They need us. And maybe we need them too. Eliza met his eyes. I never wanted to need anyone again. Yeah, me neither. They sat in the quiet, the fire crackling between them. I'm going to try harder, Eliza said finally, to be present, to not just go through the motions. You're already doing that. I could do more. We both could, but we're doing all right for now. Eliza almost smiled. Almost. Were you kind today, Mr. Hale? The question caught him off guard. What? Were you kind today to the children? Rowan thought about it. About teaching Anna to whistle, about splitting wood with Samuel, about not getting frustrated when nothing went right. I tried, he said. Then that's enough. December arrived with brutal cold. The temperature dropped so low that the water in the bucket froze overnight. Rowan had to break ice in the creek to get water for the animals. The wind screamed down from the mountains, rattling the shutters, finding every gap in the cabin walls. They stayed inside more, all of them crammed into the small space, getting on each other's nerves without meaning to. Samuel got restless. He was a boy who needed to move, to run, to burn off energy. Being cooped up made him irritable. He snapped at Anna over nothing, complained about the food, argued with Eliza about his chores. One afternoon, he pushed it too far. I don't want to haul water, he said when Eliza asked him to refill the bucket. It needs to be done. So? Let Rowan do it. Rowan's busy checking the animals. You're not busy. Go haul water. No. Eliza's patience, worn thin by days of cabin fever, finally snapped. Excuse me? I said no. I'm tired of doing chores. I'm tired of being inside. I'm tired of everything. We're all tired, Samuel. That doesn't mean the work stops. Well, maybe I should just leave then. Go live somewhere else where people don't boss me around all the time. The words hung in the air. Anna, who'd been playing quietly in the corner, went very still. Eliza's voice went cold. Is that what you want? Samuel's face was flushed, angry. Maybe. Fine. The door's right there. The boy's eyes widened. What? You want to leave? Leave. See how far you get in this weather. I didn't mean... You said it, so do it. Samuel looked at the door, then back at Eliza, confusion and hurt warring on his face. You're kicking me out? I'm calling your bluff. The boy's chin trembled. You don't want me here. I didn't say that. You're telling me to leave. No, I'm telling you that saying you want to leave when you're angry is different from actually meaning it, and I need to know which one this is. Samuel's bravado crumbled. Tears spilled down his cheeks. I don't want to leave. I'm just mad. Eliza's expression softened. She knelt down, pulling the boy into an unexpected embrace. I know you're mad, she said quietly, and scared and sad and a dozen other things. You've been through more than any child should have to go through. But you can't threaten to leave every time things get hard. This is your home now. You don't get to use that as a weapon. Samuel sobbed into her shoulder. I'm sorry. I know. It's all right. Don't make me go. I'm not making you go anywhere. You're staying right here. She held him until the crying subsided, then pulled back, wiping his face with her apron. Now, she said, you're still hauling that water. Samuel laughed wetly. Yes, ma'am. He went outside, bucket in hand. Eliza stayed on the floor, looking shaken. Anna crawled over to her, placed a small hand on her knee. Eliza looked down at the girl. I'm all right, Anna. Just tired. Anna didn't move, just kept her hand there, offering what comfort she could. When Rowan came in an hour later, Eliza told him what happened. Did I handle that right? She asked. I think so. I was so angry. I wanted to shake him. But you didn't. No, but I scared him. He needed scaring. He was testing you, seeing if you'd actually send him away like everyone else has. And if I had? But you didn't, Rowan said again. You held the line, then you held him. That's exactly what he needed. Eliza pressed her hands to her face. This is harder than I thought it would be. Yeah, it is. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are. You're doing it right now. That night, Samuel apologized again at dinner. Eliza accepted it without drama, and they moved on. But later, after the children were asleep, Rowan heard her crying behind her curtain. Quiet, muffled sobs she was trying to hide. He almost went down, almost offered comfort, or at least acknowledged that he heard. But something told him she needed this, needed to break down in private, to feel everything she'd been holding back. So he stayed in the loft and pretended not to hear. Christmas came without ceremony. They had no decorations, no special food, no gifts. It was just another day, cold and white and endless. But Eliza made it special anyway. She woke the children early and told them to get dressed. Then she took them outside, despite the cold, despite the snow, and showed them how to make snow angels. Samuel thought it was silly at first, but Anna loved it. She flopped down in the snow over and over, giggling silently as she swept her arms and legs. That giggle, the first sound of joy Rowan had heard from her, made everything worth it. They came back inside frozen and wet, and Eliza made hot cider from apples she'd been hoarding. They sat around the fire, warming their hands on the mugs, and she told them the story of a winter solstice festival from her childhood. "My mother used to make these little cakes," she said, "no bigger than your palm, sweet and spiced. She'd wrap them in cloth, and we'd give them to neighbors." "Can you make them?" Samuel asked. "I don't have the right ingredients, but maybe someday. I'd like that." For dinner, Rowan shot a turkey he'd been tracking for weeks. Eliza roasted it with wild onions and sage, and they ate until they were stuffed. Afterward, Rowan pulled out something he'd been working on in secret. "I made these," he said, handing each child a small wooden figure. For Samuel, a carved horse. For Anna, a bird with outstretched wings. The children stared at them, then at him. "They're not much," Rowan said, suddenly self-conscious. "But I thought—" Samuel threw his arms around Rowan's waist. "Thank you." Anna held her bird carefully, like it was made of glass. Then she looked up at Rowan and mouthed 2 words. "Thank you." Not spoken aloud, but clear as day. Rowan's throat tightened. "You're welcome, sweetheart." Eliza watched from across the cabin, her eyes bright. Later that night, after the children were asleep, she approached him. "That was kind," she said. "Just seemed right. It was more than right. It was exactly what they needed." She paused. "I didn't get them anything. I should have thought you gave them something better than toys." "What?" "You made them feel like they belong, like this is home." Eliza looked at the sleeping children, her expression soft. "Maybe it is. For now." "For now," Rowan agreed. But he thought, hoped, maybe it could be more than that. The days blurred together after that. One week bled into the next, marked only by small changes. Anna started talking. Not much, just a word here and there. Yes, when asked a question. Please, when she wanted something. Her voice was quiet, rusty from disuse, but it was there. Samuel grew taller, it seemed like overnight. His pants became too short, his appetite endless. He ate everything Eliza put in front of him and asked for more. Eliza thawed, slowly, gradually, like ice melting in spring sun. She smiled more, laughed occasionally at something Samuel said. Let Anna braid her hair one evening, even though it came out crooked and messy. And Rowan started to feel something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not the desperate, clawing hope of survival, but something quieter. The hope that maybe this fragile thing they'd built could last. That maybe they could actually do this. He didn't say it out loud. Didn't want to jinx it. But late at night, lying in the loft, listening to the soft sounds of his family sleeping below. Yeah, his family. When had that happened? He wasn't sure. There was no single moment, no clear line between strangers and family. It just crept up on him day by day, until one morning he woke up and realized these people mattered to him. Really mattered. It was terrifying, because caring meant you could lose. And Rowan knew exactly how much losing hurt, but he also knew he was in too deep to back out now. So he kept going, kept trying, kept being kind when he remembered, and learning to do better when he forgot. And slowly, impossibly, the cabin on the mountain stopped being just a shelter and started being a home. January hit with a vengeance that made December look merciful. The temperature dropped so low that breathing hurt, the air sharp enough to cut. Snow piled higher than the cabin windows, and for 3 days straight they couldn't open the door. The drift against it was too heavy, packed too solid. Rowan dug them out with a shovel, working in shifts because the cold made his lungs burn after 20 minutes. Samuel tried to help but gave up after 10, his face red and fingers numb even through gloves. "How much longer?" the boy asked, stamping his feet. "Until we're out," Rowan said, not stopping. "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I got." By the time they broke through, Rowan's shoulders were screaming and his hands had blistered through his gloves. He stood in the doorway, breathing hard, looking at the wall of white that surrounded them on all sides. They were truly isolated now. The trail down to town was impassable. Even if they needed help, there was no getting it. They were on their own. Inside, Eliza had breakfast waiting, oats again, because they were running low on everything else. The meat from Rowan's last hunt was almost gone. The flour was down to the bottom of the barrel. The potatoes were sprouting in their bin. She didn't say anything about it, just portioned out what they had and acted like it was enough. But Rowan saw the calculation in her eyes. She was counting, same as he was, trying to figure out how to make it stretch. That afternoon, while the children played quietly by the fire, Eliza pulled Rowan aside. "We need to talk about supplies," she said quietly. "I know. We're going to run out of flour in 2 weeks, maybe 3 if we're careful. I can try to hunt more. There's deer in the high valley if I can get up there. The snow's too deep. You'll kill yourself trying." "Then what do you want me to do?" Rowan's voice came out sharper than he meant. "I can't make food appear out of nothing." Eliza's expression didn't change. "I'm not blaming you. I'm trying to plan. We need to ration what we have left, cut portions. The kids are already hungry half the time." "I know, but if we don't ration now, we'll have nothing in February, and February's worse than January." Rowan rubbed his face, exhaustion pulling at him. She was right. He knew she was right. But the thought of giving those children even less food than they were already getting made his stomach turn. "All right," he said finally. "We ration, but they eat first. Whatever we got, they get full portions. We make up the difference." "That's not sustainable." "I don't care. I'm not starving children." Eliza studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "All right, they eat first." They shook on it, a grim pact between two people trying to keep others alive at the cost of themselves. The rationing started the next day. Smaller portions at every meal. Watered-down stew. Bread so thin you could see through it. Samuel noticed immediately. "How come Anna and me get more than you?" he asked at dinner. "You're growing," Eliza said. "You need it more." "But you barely ate anything." "I'm fine." "You don't look fine. You look tired." "Samuel," Rowan's voice carried a warning. "Drop it." The boy scowled but went quiet, returning to his food. Anna watched them all with those two knowing eyes, her bird clutched in one hand. She ate slowly, like she was trying to make it last. The days got harder after that. Rowan's trap lines yielded almost nothing. The animals were holed up, smart enough to stay hidden during the worst of the cold. He checked them anyway, trudging through snow that came up to his thighs, because what else was he supposed to do? One morning he came back empty-handed to find Eliza collapsed by the fireplace. She'd been reaching for another log, he thought, but didn't make it. Just crumpled, her body folding in on itself like a puppet with cut strings. Anna was kneeling beside her, patting her face. "Mama! Mama! Wake up!" The word hit Rowan like a physical blow. Mama. Anna had called Eliza Mama, but there wasn't time to process that. He crossed the cabin in 3 strides, dropping to his knees beside them. "Eliza, Eliza, can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered. "I'm all right," she mumbled. "Just dizzy." "When's the last time you ate?" "This morning." "Don't lie to me." She tried to push herself up, failed. "Yesterday morning, maybe." "Maybe? You don't remember? Does it matter?" "Yeah, it matters." Rowan scooped her up. She weighed almost nothing, he realized with horror, and carried her to her bedroll. "Samuel, bring water. Anna, get a blanket." Both children scrambled to help. Rowan settled Eliza onto the bedroll, pulling the blanket up to her chin. She tried to protest, but he cut her off. "You're eating, right now. I don't care if we run out of food tomorrow. You're eating today." "The children already ate. This is for you." He made her oatmeal, thick and heavy with the last of their honey, sat there and watched her eat every bite, even though she looked like she might be sick halfway through. "You can't keep doing this," he said when she finished. "Doing what?" "Starving yourself to feed us." "I'm not." "You are. I see you, Eliza. You give your portions to the kids when you think I'm not looking. You skip meals. You're wasting away." Her jaw tightened. Someone has to make sacrifices. Not like this. Not until you collapse. What else am I supposed to do? Watch them go hungry? We'll figure something out, but you dying won't help anyone. Eliza looked away, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I'm so tired of trying to figure things out. I'm tired of rationing and calculating and worrying. I'm tired of feeling like we're one bad day away from disaster. I know. Do you? Because you seem fine. You go out every day, you work, you come back. You don't complain, you don't… She broke off, frustrated. How are you so calm about this? Rowan sat back on his heels. I'm not calm, I'm terrified. Every single day I wake up terrified that today's the day I won't find food, that the weather will get worse, that something will happen to one of the kids and I won't know how to fix it. I'm scared all the time. Then how do you keep going? Because stopping ain't an option. Because those kids need us. Because you need us. He met her eyes. And we need you. Not half-starved and barely standing. We need you whole. Eliza's throat worked. I don't know if I can be whole. Then be whatever you can be. But be alive. They sat in silence, the fire crackling between them. Anna had climbed onto Eliza's bedroll, curled up against her side. Samuel hovered nearby, worry written all over his face. Were you kind today? Eliza asked quietly. The question caught Rowan off guard, same as it always did. I'm trying to be. Then I'll try too. She kept her word. She ate her portions after that, even when it was clear she wanted to give them away. She rested when Rowan told her to. Slowly, over the next week, some of the color came back to her face, but the supplies kept dwindling. By the third week of January, they were down to the absolute basics. Dried beans, a handful of oats, some jerky so old it was more leather than meat. Rowan had started eyeing the horses, wondering if it would come to that. Then, on a morning so cold the water bucket had frozen solid overnight, something changed. Rowan was outside trying to chip ice from the creek when he heard it. A sound that didn't belong. Something moving through the snow, too heavy to be an animal. He grabbed his rifle, every muscle tensing. A figure emerged from the trees. A man on horseback, bundled so heavily against the cold that Rowan couldn't see his face. That you, Hale? The man called. Rowan recognized the voice. McGrath. What the hell are you doing up here? Rowan shouted back. Bringing supplies, you idiot? You think I'd let you starve up here? McGrath's horse struggled through the last drift and into the clearing. The saloon owner dismounted, grunting with effort, and started unloading packs from the saddle. Got flour, beans, salt pork, dried apples, some other things too. Figured you'd be running low by now. Rowan stared at the supplies like they were a mirage. Why? Because you helped those kids. Because Eliza's a good woman who deserves better than freezing to death on a mountain. Because I'm a sentimental bastard. McGrath handed him a pack. Take it, and don't make me regret riding all the way up here. I can't pay you back. Not right now. Did I ask you to? McGrath pulled off his glove, warming his hands. You pay it forward someday. Help someone else when they need it. That's payment enough. Rowan's throat went tight. Thank you. Yeah. Now get me inside before I lose a toe to frostbite. They hauled everything into the cabin. Eliza took one look at the supplies and burst into tears. Not quiet, delicate tears, big gasping sobs that shook her whole body. McGrath looked alarmed. Did I do something wrong? No, Eliza managed. No, thank you so much. The children crowded around, eyes wide at the sight of so much food. Samuel reached for an apple, then stopped, looking at Rowan for permission. Go ahead, Rowan said. Samuel grabbed it and bit in, juice running down his chin. He made a sound of pure joy. Anna took one too, holding it carefully, like it might disappear. McGrath stayed for an hour, warming himself by the fire and catching them up on town news. Then he headed back down the mountain, refusing Rowan's repeated attempts to thank him. Just take care of them, he said at the door. That's thanks enough. After he left, they stood there looking at the supplies like they couldn't quite believe it was real. We're going to be all right, Eliza said softly. Yeah, Rowan agreed. We are. That night, for the first time in weeks, they ate until they were full. Eliza made apple cobbler with the dried fruit, and the smell alone was enough to make Samuel close his eyes in happiness. This is the best thing I ever ate, he declared. It's just cobbler, Eliza said, but she was smiling. Still the best? Anna nodded agreement, her mouth too full to speak. Later, after the children were asleep, Eliza approached Rowan again. "We got lucky," she said. "Yeah. What if McGrath hadn't come? What would we have done?" "I don't know. Found a way, I guess. We've been finding ways since this started." "It can't always be this hard, can it? Surely it gets easier." Rowan thought about it, about the winter still stretching ahead of them, the work that never ended, the constant struggle to keep everyone safe and fed and whole. "Maybe," he said, "or maybe we just get stronger." "I don't feel strong." "You collapsed last week and still got up the next day. That's strength." Eliza was quiet for a moment, then, "The children called me Mama today. Did you hear that?" "I heard." "I didn't correct them." "Should you have?" "I don't know. I'm not their mother." "Maybe not by blood, but you're the closest thing they got." She absorbed that, her expression complicated. "What about you? Samuel's been calling you Rowan since the beginning. You ever wish he'd call you something else?" "Like what? Papa or father or just Pa?" Rowan's chest tightened. "I never thought about it." "Liar." He almost smiled. "All right, maybe I thought about it. But I figured he'd call me what he wants to call me. I'm not going to force it." "What if he never does?" "Then he doesn't. Don't make me less responsible for him." Eliza looked at the sleeping children, her face soft in the firelight. "They're ours now, aren't they? Really ours." "Yeah, I think they are." "When did that happen?" "I don't know, somewhere between the saloon and now." She reached out, surprising him, and squeezed his hand briefly. "Thank you for asking me to help, for giving me a reason to keep going. You're the one who said yes. We both said yes, and somehow we're making it work. Most days." "Most days," she agreed. February brought a brief thaw. The temperature rose just enough that the snow started to melt, turning everything into slush and mud. The roof dripped constantly, and Rowan spent 2 days reinforcing it to prevent leaks. The children went outside for the first time in weeks, running through the slush like it was summer. Samuel threw snowballs at Anna, who shrieked with laughter and threw them back. The sound of their joy carried across the clearing, bright and clear. Eliza stood in the doorway watching them, wrapped in a shawl. Rowan came up behind her, drying his hands on a rag. "They're good kids," she said. "Yeah. We're lucky to have them." "I think they're lucky to have us too." She glanced at him. "You really believe that?" "Most days." "Only most days?" "Some days I worry we're not enough, that they deserve better than two broken people trying to figure it out as they go." Eliza turned to face him fully. "We're not broken, Rowan. We're scarred. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Broken things can't work. Scarred things work fine. They just carry the marks of what they've been through." He thought about that. "When'd you get so wise?" "I'm not wise. I'm just tired of feeling broken." Outside, Samuel had managed to tackle Anna into a snowbank. She was laughing so hard she couldn't breathe, and he was laughing too, their faces red from cold and joy. "They make it easier," Eliza said quietly, "to feel less broken." "Yeah, they do." That night Samuel asked a question that changed everything. They'd just finished dinner, and he was helping Eliza clean up when he said, casual as anything, "Can I call you Ma?" Eliza froze, a plate halfway to the wash basin. "You don't have to," Samuel added quickly. "I just thought Anna does, and it feels weird that I don't, but if you don't want me to—" "You can call me whatever you'd like," Eliza said, her voice carefully steady. "So, Ma is all right?" "Ma is fine," Samuel grinned. "Okay, Ma." He said it like he was testing it out, seeing how it felt. Then he went back to work like nothing had happened. Eliza set the plate down carefully, gripping the edge of the wash basin. Her shoulders were shaking. Rowan caught her eye. "You all right?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. Later, when the children were asleep and they were doing their evening work by the fire, she spoke. "He called me Ma." "I heard." "I didn't think—" She stopped, started again. "I thought that word was gone from my life, that I'd never hear it again." "How'd it feel?" "Terrifying and perfect, both at once." Rowan worked the leather he was softening, giving her space to feel whatever she needed to feel. "I had a daughter," Eliza said quietly. "Her name was Lily. She would have been Anna's age now if she'd lived, maybe a little older. It was the first time she'd spoken her daughter's name aloud since that night in the saloon. Rowan went still, not wanting to interrupt. She loved birds, used to watch them out the window for hours, making up stories about where they were going. Eliza's voice cracked. She'd have loved that carving you made for Anna, the bird with the wings. I'm sorry, Rowan said, that you lost her. Me too. Eliza wiped her eyes. But being here with them, it doesn't replace her. Nothing could. But it helps. It makes the empty space hurt less. Good. That's good. Is it? Sometimes I feel guilty. Like I'm betraying her memory by caring about other children. You think she'd want you to stop caring? No. She was generous, even at 3. She'd have shared everything she had. Eliza smiled, sad but genuine. She'd have liked Samuel and Anna, would have tried to boss them around probably. Sounds like a kid. She was. She was so normal, so perfect in her normalness, and then she was just gone. They sat with that for a while, the weight of loss hanging between them. Then Eliza said, "What about you? You ever lost someone?" "My parents. But that was a long time ago." "Did you have anyone else before all this?" Rowan shook his head. "No, I've been alone most of my life. Figured that's how it'd always be." "You're not alone now." "No, I'm not." "Does that scare you?" "Every damn day." Eliza almost laughed. "At least we're scared together. At least there's that." The next morning, Samuel approached Rowan while he was chopping wood. "Can I ask you something?" the boy said. "Sure." "Would it be all right if I called you Pa?" Rowan's axe stopped mid-swing. He set it down carefully, turning to face the boy. "You don't have to," Samuel said quickly, echoing what he'd told Eliza the night before. You do the things a pa does. You teach me stuff and keep us safe, and I thought maybe it'd be all right, but if it's not, it's all right," Rowan said, his voice rough. "You can call me Pa." Samuel's face split into a grin. "Yeah? Yeah." The boy threw his arms around Rowan's waist, hugging him tight. Rowan stood there frozen for a second before his hands came up to rest on Samuel's shoulders. "Thank you," Samuel mumbled into his coat. "For what?" "For keeping us. For not letting them take us away." Rowan's throat went tight. "You don't gotta thank me for that." "I want to." They stood there for a moment, man and boy, something fundamental shifting between them. When Samuel finally pulled back, he was still grinning. "I'm gonna go tell Anna. She's gonna be so excited." He ran off toward the cabin, leaving Rowan standing there with his axe and a feeling in his chest that he couldn't quite name. Inside, he could hear Samuel's voice, high and excited. Anna, guess what? I called him Pa, and he said it's all right." Anna's response was quieter, but he heard it. "Really? Really? You should try it too." Rowan picked up his axe and went back to work, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth, despite everything. That evening, Anna came up to him while he was banking the fire. She stood there, shifting from foot to foot, working up her courage. "What is it, sweetheart?" Rowan asked. She stopped, tried again. "Can I call you Papa?" The word hit different from Pa. Smaller. More delicate. She pronounced it carefully, like she was offering him something precious. "Of course you can," Rowan said. Anna smiled, that rare, bright smile that transformed her whole face. Then she wrapped her arms around his neck and held on tight. Rowan hugged her back, his large hands careful on her small frame. "I love you, Papa," she whispered. And Rowan, who hadn't said those words or heard them since he was a child himself, found them coming easier than he expected. "I love you too, Anna." Eliza watched from across the cabin, her hand pressed to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. That night, after their children, were asleep, Rowan and Eliza sat by the dying fire. "We did it," she said softly. "Did what?" "Became a family." Rowan looked at the sleeping forms by the hearth. Samuel sprawled out, taking up twice the space he needed. Anna curled up with her bird, peaceful in a way she hadn't been when they'd found her. "Yeah," he said. "I guess we did." "I didn't think it was possible. When you asked me to marry you, I thought we'd just be 2 people sharing a space, helping kids who needed it. I didn't think that it had become real." "Yeah." Me neither. Eliza leaned back against the wall, exhaustion written in every line of her body. But it was a good exhaustion, the kind that came from honest work and full bellies and children who called you mama. Were you kind today? She asked. Rowan thought about teaching Samuel to set a snare, about letting Anna help him check the horses, about the 1,000 small moments that made up a day. I tried, he said. You did more than try. You're a good father, Rowan. The word father settled over him like a coat. It fit better than he expected. You're a good mother, he said. I'm trying to be. That's all any of us can do. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire burn down to embers. Outside, the wind had picked up again. More snow was coming. They could both feel it. But inside the cabin, they were warm, fed, together. And somehow, impossibly, that was enough. March arrived with false promises. The snow melted in patches, revealing brown earth and last year's dead grass. The sun stayed out longer, warmer. Birds returned, their songs unfamiliar after months of silence. Rowan and Samuel worked on expanding the cabin. They'd need more space if this arrangement was going to last, and nobody was talking about it ending anymore. They framed out a small addition that would give Eliza a proper room, with a real door and a window that actually opened. Why's Ma need her own room? Samuel asked, hammering a nail crooked. Because she's been sleeping on the floor for 4 months, Rowan said, and because everyone deserves a space that's theirs. Will she still tell us stories? I imagine so. Having a door don't change that. Samuel straightened the nail with another hit. Good. I like her stories. Me too. They worked in companionable silence, the sound of hammering echoing across the clearing. Inside, Eliza was teaching Anna to bake bread. The girl's hands were covered in flour, and she was concentrating so hard her tongue stuck out between her teeth. Knead it like this, Eliza demonstrated, pressing and folding the dough. You want it smooth, but not too much, or it'll be tough. Anna copied the motion, her small hands working the dough with determination. That's good. You're a natural, Anna beamed. Really? Really? Better than I was at your age. What were you like when you were little? Eliza paused, caught off guard by the question. Impatient, always rushing through things to get to the next thing. And now? Now I try to slow down, pay attention to what's right in front of me. Anna processed this, still kneading. I don't remember much from before Mama and Papa died. That's all right, is it? Samuel remembers. He tells me stories about them sometimes, but I can't. I try to remember Mama's face, but it's all blurry. Eliza's hand stilled on her own dough. You were very young. It's normal to forget. Does that make me bad? No, sweetheart. It makes you human. Memory's a strange thing. It keeps what it wants and lets go of the rest. She brushed flour from Anna's nose. But you know what? You get to choose what to remember from now on. Every day we have together, that's a memory you're making, and those are just as important as the old ones. Anna thought about this, her face serious. I'll remember you, and Papa, and Samuel. I'll remember all of this. Good, because we're not going anywhere. Later that afternoon, while the bread was rising, Judge Whitmore returned. Rowan saw the carriage coming up the trail and his stomach dropped. He'd known this was coming. Whitmore had said he'd check on them in spring, but knowing didn't make it easier. Samuel, go get your ma, he said quietly. Why? Just do it, now. The boy heard the urgency and ran. By the time Whitmore's carriage pulled into the clearing, they were all standing outside. Rowan and Eliza side by side, the children slightly behind them. Whitmore stepped down, looking around with his sharp, assessing eyes. He took in the expanded cabin, the neat woodpile, the smoke rising from the chimney. Mr. Hale, Mrs. Hale. He nodded to each of them. I see you've survived the winter. We have, Rowan said. And the children? They're well. Whitmore approached Samuel and Anna, studying them with the same cold calculation he'd shown before. You're Samuel, correct? Yes, sir. And you're well cared for here? Samuel glanced at Rowan, then back at the judge. Yes, sir. Very well. You have adequate food, shelter? Yes, sir. Whitmore turned to Anna. And you, child? Are you happy here? Anna shrank back slightly, pressing against Eliza's side, but she nodded. I need to hear you say it, Whitmore said, not unkindly. Anna's voice was barely a whisper. I'm happy. No one's hurting you? You're not frightened? No, sir. Papa and Mama take good care of us. The words Papa and Mama hung in the air. Whitmore's eyebrows rose slightly. I see. He straightened, addressing Rowan and Eliza. I'd like to inspect the premises, ensure the living conditions are suitable. Of course, Eliza said, her voice steady despite the tension radiating from her. Please, come inside. They showed him everything. The main room with its stone fireplace and sturdy furniture, the loft where Rowan still slept, the corner where Eliza had her space, the addition they were building, the cold cellar with its remaining supplies, the lean-to with the horses and chickens they'd acquired. Whitmore examined it all with meticulous attention, opening cupboards, checking the chimney flue, testing the floor for soft spots. The children sleep where? He asked. By the fire, Eliza said, where it's warmest. And you, Mrs. Hale? I sleep near them, in case they wake during the night. Mr. Hale? The loft, Rowan said. Whitmore made a note in a small book he carried. The arrangement seems functional. It's more than functional, Eliza said, an edge creeping into her voice. It's a home. Whitmore looked at her for a long moment. That remains to be seen. He interviewed the children separately. Samuel first, then Anna. Rowan and Eliza waited outside, neither of them speaking. Rowan could feel Eliza trembling slightly, though she kept her face composed. He's going to take them, she whispered. He's not. You don't know that. I know we've done everything right. We've kept them safe, kept them fed, kept them loved. He can't take that away. He's a judge. He can do whatever he wants. Rowan wanted to argue, but he couldn't. She was right. Whitmore held all the power here. After what felt like hours but was probably 20 minutes, Whitmore emerged with both children. Mr. and Mrs. Hale, he said formally. I've completed my assessment. Rowan's heart hammered against his ribs. The children appear healthy and well-adjusted. The accommodations, while modest, are adequate. The emotional bonds seem genuine. Whitmore closed his notebook. I'm satisfied that this arrangement is in the children's best interest. They may remain in your custody. The relief hit Rowan so hard he had to lock his knees to stay standing. Eliza made a small sound, half laugh, half sob. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'll be checking in periodically. If at any point I determine the situation has deteriorated, I will remove the children. Understood? Understood, Rowan said. Whitmore climbed back into his carriage. Before leaving, he looked down at them one more time. You did well, he said quietly. Better than I expected, truthfully. Most arrangements like this fall apart within a month. But you've made something work here. Keep doing what you're doing. Then he was gone, the carriage disappearing down the trail. The moment he was out of sight, Samuel whooped, jumping up and down. We get to stay! We get to stay! Anna grabbed Eliza around the waist, holding tight. Rowan and Eliza looked at each other, the weight of the past months suddenly crashing down on both of them. We did it, Eliza said. Yeah, we did. That night, they celebrated. Eliza made a special dinner, venison steaks with the last of the wild onions, potatoes fried in bacon fat, and dried berry compote that she'd been saving. It was the best meal they'd had in months. Samuel ate 3 helpings. Anna ate 2 and declared she was going to burst. Afterward, they sat around the fire, too full and happy to move much. Tell us a story, Ma, Samuel said, leaning against her shoulder. What kind? A happy one, with a good ending. Eliza thought for a moment. Then she began. Once there was a family who lived on a mountain. They weren't related by blood. They'd found each other by chance, or maybe by something more than chance. A father who'd been alone. A mother who'd lost everything. 2 children who needed a home. Together they survived a terrible winter. They went hungry sometimes, and they were scared sometimes, but they never gave up on each other. And when spring came, they were still together. Still a family. And they lived on that mountain for many, many years. And they were happy. Samuel frowned. That's not a story. That's us. Is it? Eliza smiled. Maybe the best stories are the ones we live. Anna yawned, her eyes drooping. I like that story. Me too, Samuel admitted. They put the children to bed, both of them asleep almost before their heads hit the pillows. Rowan and Eliza cleaned up in comfortable silence, moving around each other with the ease of people who'd learned each other's rhythms. When the work was done, they sat by the fire again. "I was terrified today," Eliza said quietly. "I know. When Whitmore was interviewing Anna, I thought, what if she says the wrong thing? What if he decides we're not good enough? But she didn't, and he didn't. But he could have. We could have lost them." Rowan poked at the fire, sending sparks up the chimney. "We didn't lose them. We get to keep them. That's what matters. For now, but what about next time he visits? What about the time after that? Then we keep doing what we're doing, being a family. That's all we can do." Eliza pulled her shawl tighter. "Sometimes I forget this started as an arrangement, a marriage of convenience to keep the children safe. It feels real now." "It is real." "Is it? We still barely know each other, Rowan. We share a home. We're raising children together, but—" She stopped, searching for words. "There's still so much distance between us." Rowan was quiet for a long moment. "What do you want to know?" The question surprised her. "What?" "You said we barely know each other, so ask. Whatever you want to know, I'll answer." Eliza studied him in the firelight. "Why did you really save those children? The truth, not the version you told the saloon." Rowan took a breath. "When I found them by that wagon, Anna was holding Samuel and they were both just sitting there, waiting, like they'd already given up. And I looked at them and I saw myself, 8 years old, standing at my pa's grave, knowing I was about to be passed around like unwanted cargo. I remembered that feeling, being small and alone and knowing nobody really wanted you." He met her eyes. "I couldn't walk away from that. Couldn't leave them to go through what I went through. So you saved them to save yourself." "Maybe. Or maybe I saved them because somebody should have saved me and nobody did." Eliza absorbed this. "My turn. If you want. Why did you really agree to help me that night?" She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was raw. "Because I was so tired of being alone. After I lost Lily and John, I spent 3 years just existing. Not living, just going through the motions. Every day was exactly the same. Wake up, work, eat, sleep. I felt like a ghost haunting my own life." She wiped her eyes. "And then you walked into that saloon and asked for help. Not love, not anything complicated, just help. And I thought, maybe this is how I come back. Maybe these children need someone just as much as I need to be needed. You could have helped without marrying me." "No, I couldn't. Nobody would have let an unmarried woman take in orphans. The only way I could help was to be your wife." She paused. "Even if it was just on paper." "Is that what it still is? Just on paper?" The question hung between them, weighted with months of shared meals and shared fears and shared children. "I don't know," Eliza said honestly. "What is it to you?" Rowan considered. "It's more than paper, more than an arrangement, but I don't know what to call it. We could call it a partnership. Is that what you want?" "I don't know what I want. I know I don't want to be alone anymore. I know I care about those children more than I thought I could care about anything. I know being here, with all of you, makes me feel less like a ghost." She looked at him. "But more than that? I don't know if I'm ready for more than that." "That's fair. Is it enough for you?" Rowan thought about the question honestly. Was it enough, this careful partnership, this family built on necessity rather than romance? "Yeah," he said finally. "It's enough. More than I ever thought I'd have." Eliza leaned back, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. "Were you kind today?" "I tried to be." "You were. With the children, with Whitmore, with me. You're always trying. So are you. We're a good team." "Yeah, we are." They sat in comfortable silence as the fire burned lower. Outside, an owl called, hunting in the darkness. Inside, 2 children slept peacefully, safe and warm, and 2 adults who'd been broken in different ways sat together, not quite healed, but healing. Not quite whole, but working on it. It was enough. April brought mud and rain and the slow awakening of the mountain. Wildflowers pushed up through old snow. The creek ran high and fast with meltwater. Green returned to the world, tentative at first, then bolder. The addition to the cabin was finished. Eliza moved into her new room with the single window that looked east toward the sunrise. She hung curtains she'd sewn from flour sacks and arranged her few possessions on a shelf Rowan had built. "It's perfect," she said, standing in the doorway. "It's small," Rowan said. "It's mine. That's what makes it perfect." Samuel and Anna had claimed the loft, thrilled to have their own space. They hung Samuel's carvings from the rafters and made Anna's sewing corner by the window. At night, Rowan could hear them whispering and giggling, the sounds of children who felt safe enough to be children. He'd moved back down to the main room, sleeping on a new cot he'd built near the fireplace. Some nights he heard Eliza moving in her room, restless. Other nights he heard nothing, which meant she was sleeping soundly. Those were the good nights. One evening, Samuel came to him with a question that had clearly been weighing on him. "Pa, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "When you and Ma got married, did you love each other?" Rowan set down the harness he was mending. "Where's this coming from?" "Billy Thompson at church said his ma told him that you and Ma only got married because of us, that it wasn't a real marriage." Samuel's face was troubled. "Is that true?" Rowan chose his words carefully. "Your ma and I got married because it was the right thing to do. Because you and Anna needed a family and we could give you one. So yeah, in that way, Billy's ma is right." "So you don't love Ma?" "I didn't say that." Samuel frowned. "But you didn't say you do either." "Love's complicated, Samuel. It's not always like in the stories your ma tells, where people meet and fall in love right away. Sometimes it grows slow. Sometimes it's built from working side by side, from taking care of each other, from making a life together." "So you do love her?" Rowan thought about Eliza, about the way she braided Anna's hair with gentle patience, the way she saved him the best piece of meat even when she was hungry, the way she asked him every night if he'd been kind, like she was checking to make sure he was still him. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I think I do." "Does she know?" "I don't know." "You should tell her." "Maybe. Someday." "Why not now?" "Because some things take time, and some things are scary to say out loud." Samuel seemed to accept this. "Billy Thompson also said orphans are cursed, that bad things follow them." "Billy Thompson's an idiot." "Pa?" "Well, he is. There's no such thing as cursed children. You and Anna are just kids who had something terrible happen. That don't make you cursed. That makes you survivors." "But what if bad things keep happening? What if you or Ma die like our first parents did?" Rowan pulled the boy close. "I can't promise nothing bad will ever happen. Life don't work that way. But I can promise that your Ma and I are doing everything we can to stick around, to be here for you, and that's not nothing. You promise you'll try?" "I promise." Samuel hugged him tight. "Good. Because I don't want new parents again. I like the ones I got." That night, Rowan told Eliza about the conversation. "He's worried we'll die," he said. Eliza's face went pale. "Oh, I told him we're doing our best to stick around. But he's scared." "Of course he is. He's lost one set of parents already." She sat down heavily. "What do we do?" "Keep showing up, keep being steady. Eventually he'll trust that we're not going anywhere." "And if something does happen? If one of us gets sick or injured then we deal with it when it comes. We can't live scared of every possible disaster." Eliza rubbed her temples. "I hate this. I hate that he has to worry about these things. He should be worried about whether he can catch the biggest fish or climb the tallest tree, not whether his parents are going to die. Yeah, but that's not the hand he was dealt. It's not fair. No, it's not." They sat in shared frustration, the unfairness of it all pressing down on them. Finally, Eliza said, "I'm going to talk to him tomorrow. Make sure he knows we're committed to staying, that he's not going to lose us." "Good. Were you kind today?" Rowan thought about his conversation with Samuel, about being honest even when the truth was hard. "I tried to be. That's all any of us can do." May brought warmth and growth and a sense of possibility. The garden Eliza planted began to sprout, neat rows of beans and carrots and potatoes. Anna helped her water it every morning, taking the task seriously. Samuel helped Rowan with the heavier work, clearing brush, repairing fences, preparing for another winter that was still months away but never too early to plan for. They were building something, not just a homestead, but a life. One afternoon, Rowan was working on the roof when he heard raised voices from inside. He climbed down to find Eliza and Anna in the middle of an argument. I said no, Eliza was saying, her voice firm. But I want to go. Anna's face was flushed with anger. I understand that, but it's too far and you're too young. I am not. Samuel gets to do everything and I never get to do anything. Samuel is older, and he's not walking to town alone either. It's not fair. Life's not fair, Anna. The sooner you learn that, the better. Anna's face crumpled. I hate you. She ran outside, slamming the door behind her. Eliza stood there, visibly shaken. When she noticed Rowan, she shook her head. Don't say it. Wasn't going to say anything. She's never talked to me like that before. She's testing you, seeing if you'll leave when she's difficult. I know that. It doesn't make it easier. Eliza sank into a chair. I actually felt my heart break a little when she said she hated me. She doesn't mean it. I know, but it still hurts. Rowan sat across from her. When I was a kid, I told my ma I hated her once. I don't even remember why. Probably something stupid. She told me that was all right. I could hate her if I needed to, but I still had to do my chores. What did you do? Did my chores. And stopped hating her about an hour later. He paused. The point is, kids say things they don't mean. Anna's learning she can be angry without losing you. That's good. Doesn't feel good. No, but it's important. Eliza was quiet for a moment. Will you talk to her? I don't think I can right now without crying. Yeah, I'll talk to her. He found Anna by the creek, throwing rocks into the water with angry force. You want company? He asked. No. He sat down anyway. They were quiet for a while, Anna throwing rocks, Rowan watching the water flow past. Finally, Anna said, I do hate her. All right. She never lets me do anything. She lets you do lots of things. Not the things I want to do? Like walking to town alone? Yes, I'm not a baby. No, you're not. But you're 7 years old and town's 5 miles away. That's a long walk, and there's animals on that trail that could hurt you. Anna threw another rock. Samuel gets to do everything. Samuel's 10, and you don't get to walk to town alone either. But he gets to help Pa with the traps and chop wood, and you get to help Ma in the garden and bake bread and sew. Those are girl things. So? They're important things. We'd starve without the garden. We'd have no clothes without the sewing. Anna was quiet, considering this. You know what I think? Rowan said. I think you're angry because you're growing up, and you want more freedom. That's normal. But your ma's trying to keep you safe. That's normal too. You're both doing what you're supposed to do. I still hate her. That's your right, but she's not going anywhere. Even if you hate her, she'll be here tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. Being your ma. Loving you even when you're difficult. Anna picked at the grass. I said a mean thing. Yeah, you did. She looked sad. She was. She is. When you love someone and they say they hate you, it hurts, even when you know they don't really mean it. Do I have to say sorry? That's up to you, but it might make both of you feel better. Anna threw one more rock, then stood up. Will you come with me? If you want. They walked back to the cabin together. Inside, Eliza was making dinner, her movements stiff and unhappy. Anna approached slowly. Ma? Eliza turned, her eyes red. I don't really hate you, Anna said quietly. I was just mad. Eliza knelt down, pulling the girl into a hug. I know, baby. I know. I'm sorry I said it. I'm sorry, too, for making you feel like I don't listen. Can we still be friends? We're more than friends. We're family, and family forgives each other. Anna hugged her tighter. I love you, Ma. I love you, too, so much. Rowan left them there, heading back outside to give them space. Samuel was sitting on the porch, whittling. They make up? He asked. Yeah. Good. Anna cries loud when she's upset. Rowan almost smiled. That she does. Pa? Do you and Ma ever fight? Not really. We disagree sometimes, but we talk it out. That's good. My first Ma and Pa used to yell sometimes. It scared me. Your Ma and I try not to yell. It don't solve much. Samuel was quiet for a moment. I'm glad I got you and Ma. I know I didn't at first. I was scared of everything changing, but now I can't imagine being anywhere else. Me neither, son. The word son slipped out naturally, and Samuel's face lit up. You called me son. Yeah, I did. I like that. Good, because that's what you are. That night, after the children were asleep, Rowan and Eliza sat outside, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. Thank you, Eliza said, for talking to Anna. She just needed to work through it. She listens to you, both of them do. They listen to you too. Not always. Sometimes I feel like I'm shouting into the wind. That's parenting. Half the time they ignore you. The other half they surprise you by remembering every word. Eliza smiled. When did you get so wise about children? I'm not wise. I'm just making it up as I go. Aren't we all? They sat in comfortable silence, the day settling around them. Were you kind today? Eliza asked. I tried. You were. You're always trying. That's what makes you a good father. You're a good mother. I'm trying to be. That's all any of us can do, Rowan said. Try, and show up, and love them even when they're difficult. Even when they say they hate us. Especially then. Eliza leaned back, looking up at the stars. I think we're doing all right, Rowan. Despite everything, I think we're actually doing all right. Yeah, he agreed. I think we are. And under that wide Wyoming sky, with their children sleeping safe inside and months of hard work behind them and more ahead, they sat together in the quiet, two people who'd built a family from nothing and somehow made it work. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was theirs, and that was enough. Summer came in full force, transforming the mountain into something almost unrecognizable. Green everywhere, thick and lush. Wildflowers in colors Rowan couldn't name. The days stretched long, the sun not setting until well past 8, giving them hours of light to work. The garden flourished under Eliza's care. Beans climbed their poles, potato plants spread wide, carrots pushed up their feathery tops. Anna spent hours there, talking to the plants like they were friends, convinced her words helped them grow. That's not how it works, Samuel told her one afternoon. How do you know? Anna shot back. Maybe they like being talked to. Plants don't have ears. Maybe they don't need ears. Maybe they feel the words. Samuel rolled his eyes but didn't argue further. He'd learned that Anna, once she got an idea in her head, held onto it tight. One evening in late June, Rowan came back from checking the traps to find Eliza sitting on the porch steps, a letter in her hands. Her face was pale. What is it? He asked. She held up the letter. It's from my sister, in Ohio. I didn't even know she knew where I was. What's it say? Eliza's voice was carefully neutral. She's asking me to come home. Says the family misses me, that I've been gone long enough, punished myself enough. That it's time to come back to civilization. Rowan's stomach dropped. What are you going to do? I don't know. She looked up at him, her eyes troubled. I haven't seen them in 3 years. Didn't even tell them where I was going when I left. Do you want to see them? Part of me does. Part of me wants to run as far from Ohio as possible. She folded the letter carefully. She also mentioned that there's a widower in town. A banker. Respectable, stable, looking for a wife. She thinks we'd be a good match. The words hit Rowan like a fist. I see. She doesn't know about you. About any of this. She still thinks I'm that broken widow living alone, wasting away. You could tell her different. I could. Eliza stood, pacing. But what would I say? That I married a mountain man I barely knew to save 2 orphans from the territorial system? That we're raising children who aren't ours? That we've built this whole life based on necessity? You could tell her it worked, that we're happy. Eliza stopped pacing, looking at him. Are we? Happy? The question hung between them, weighted with everything they'd never said. I am, Rowan said quietly. Are you? I don't know. I'm not unhappy. I'm not numb anymore. I feel things, joy when Anna laughs, pride when Samuel learns something new, contentment when we're all together. But happy? She shook her head. I'm not sure I know what that feels like anymore. So you're thinking about leaving? No. Maybe. I don't know. She pressed her hands to her face. I'm thinking about what my life could have been, if I'd made different choices. If I'd gone back to Ohio after John and Lily died, if I'd never walked into that saloon, would that life be better? Safer, probably, more predictable. My sister's right. A banker would be stable, respectable. I could have a normal life again. Normal, Rowan repeated. That what you want? Normal? Don't I deserve normal? After everything? You deserve whatever you want. If that's normal, then yeah, you deserve it. He turned to go inside, then stopped. But I'll tell you what I think. I think normal's overrated. I think what we got here, messy and hard and built from scraps, that's worth more than any banker in Ohio could give you. He went inside before she could respond. That night, neither of them could sleep. Rowan lay in his cot, staring at the ceiling, while Eliza moved restlessly in her room. The children slept soundly in the loft, unaware of the conversation that might change everything. Around midnight, Eliza emerged from her room. Rowan? You awake? Yeah. She sat at the table, wrapped in her shawl. Can we talk? He got up, joining her. In the dim light from the banked fire, her face looked young and uncertain. I'm not leaving, she said. I need you to know that first. I'm not leaving. Relief flooded through him. All right. But I need to understand what this is. What we are. She twisted her hands together. We've been married for almost 8 months. We've built a home, raised children, survived a winter that should have broken us. But we've never talked about what happens next. If this is permanent, if we're just waiting for the children to grow up before we go our separate ways. Is that what you think? That this is temporary? I don't know what to think. We never defined it. We just kept moving forward, day by day, never talking about the future. Rowan chose his words carefully. When we got married, it was for the kids. I know that. You know that. We weren't looking for love or partnership or anything beyond keeping Samuel and Anna safe. But somewhere along the way, it became more. At least for me. He met her eyes. I can't pinpoint when. Maybe it was watching you teach Anna to sew. Maybe it was that day you collapsed and I realized how much I needed you here. Maybe it was just all the small moments adding up. But Eliza, this stopped being an arrangement a long time ago. For me too, she whispered. That's what scares me. Why? Because I lost everything once before. My husband, my daughter, my whole life. It destroyed me. And now I have all of this, you, the children, a home, and the thought of losing it terrifies me. So when my sister writes about Ohio and normal life and safe choices, part of me thinks maybe I should take it, before I get in too deep, before I have too much to lose. You're already in too deep. I know, that's the problem. Rowan reached across the table, taking her hand. It was the most deliberate touch they'd shared since their wedding handshake. I can't promise you won't lose this, he said. I can't promise I won't die, or get hurt, or that something terrible won't happen. Life's too unpredictable for promises like that. Then what can you promise? That I'll try. Every day I'll try to be kind, to be steady, to be here. And on the days I fail, because I will fail sometimes, I'll get up the next day and try again. He squeezed her hand. And I'll never ask you to be more than you can be. If all you can give is partnership and shared responsibility, that's enough. If someday you can give more, I'll take it. But I won't push, I won't demand. I'll just be here. Eliza's eyes filled with tears. What if I'm too broken to give more? Then you're broken. So am I. We'll be broken together. She laughed, wet and shaky. That's not very romantic. No, but it's honest. They sat in silence, hands still linked across the table. Finally, Eliza said, I think I could love you, if I let myself, if I wasn't so scared. I think I already do love you, have for a while now. When did that happen? Don't know exactly, but it's there. Eliza wiped her eyes. I'm going to write my sister back, tell her I'm staying, that I have a family here. She'll ask questions. Let her. I don't owe her explanations. What about the banker? He can find someone else, someone who wants normal. She smiled, fragile but genuine. I apparently prefer messy. Messy's good. Is it? It's real. That makes it good. Eliza stood, still holding his hand. For a moment, Rowan thought she might lean down, might kiss him, but instead she squeezed his fingers once more and let go. Were you kind today? She asked. I tried to be. You were. You always are. She went back to her room, leaving Rowan sitting at the table, his hand still warm from hers. The crisis passed, but something had shifted. They were more careful with each other after that, more deliberate. Small touches became more frequent, a hand on the shoulder, fingers brushing while passing dishes, sitting closer by the fire. The children noticed. Pa and Ma are being weird, Samuel announced one afternoon while he and Anna were supposed to be weeding the garden. How? They keep looking at each other, and Ma smiles more. Anna pulled a weed triumphantly. That's good, isn't it? I guess. It's just different. Different can be good. Samuel thought about this. Do you think they love each other, like real love, not just being nice love? I think so. Ma gets that look when Pa comes home, like she was worried he wouldn't. What look? Like this. Anna demonstrated, her face lighting up with exaggerated relief. Samuel laughed. That's dumb. You asked. Up at the cabin, Eliza was in fact watching the trail, waiting for Rowan to return from town. He'd gone to pick up supplies and mail, leaving before dawn. He should have been back by now. When she finally heard hoofbeats, the relief was physical. She hated how much she worried, hated how the hours stretched when he was gone, her mind conjuring every possible disaster. Rowan rode into the clearing, Greta loaded down with supplies. He dismounted, starting to unload. You're late, Eliza said, trying to keep her voice casual. McGrath was talking my ear off. Apparently there's talk of a railroad coming through, a couple years out. That would change things. Yeah. Make getting supplies easier anyway. He handed her a package. This came for you. It was from her sister, a response to Eliza's letter. She opened it, scanning quickly. She's upset, Eliza said. Says I'm throwing my life away, that I've lost my mind. What'd you tell her? The truth. That I'm married, raising children, happier than I've been in years. And she don't believe you. She thinks I'm in denial, that I'm hiding from grief instead of facing it. Rowan started carrying supplies inside. Maybe you are. Or maybe you're building something new. Those aren't mutually exclusive. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I just know what I see. And I see someone who's living, not hiding. Eliza folded the letter, tucking it away. I'm not writing her back. If she can't be happy for me, that's her problem. Family's complicated. Understatement. That night at dinner, Samuel made an announcement. I want to learn to read better, he said. Not just the simple stuff, real reading. Eliza looked up, surprised. That's wonderful. What brought this on? Billy Thompson was bragging about reading a whole book, and I thought I should be able to do that too. I'm not dumb. You're not dumb at all. You're very smart. So you'll teach me? Of course. We'll start tomorrow. Anna piped up. Can I learn too? You're already learning, but I want to learn more. Like Samuel. Then we'll all learn together. After the children went to bed, Rowan pulled out a book he'd bought in town, a collection of frontier stories. He'd been teaching himself to read better for months, struggling through the words in private. What's that? Eliza asked. Thought I should improve too. If the kids are learning, I should keep up. You read fine. I read enough to get by. That's different from reading well. Eliza sat beside him. Read to me. I'm not good at it. I don't care. Read. So he did, stumbling over words, losing his place, having to sound out syllables. But Eliza listened patiently, sometimes helping with difficult words, never making him feel foolish. When he finished the first page, she smiled. That was good. That was terrible. It was brave, and it'll get better with practice. Why do I feel like we're talking about more than reading? Maybe we are. The summer stretched on, golden and full. The garden produced more than they could eat, so Eliza preserved everything, canning beans, drying herbs, storing potatoes in the root cellar. Samuel and Anna helped, learning the rhythms of harvest and preparation. One afternoon in August, a rider came up the trail. Not McGrath this time, but a stranger, a young man with an official-looking satchel. Rowan Hale, he called. Rowan set down his axe. That's me. I have documents for you regarding the adoption of Samuel and Anna Thornton. Rowan's heart stopped. Adoption? Judge Whitmore sent me. He said you've proven yourself as a guardian, and he's willing to make the arrangement permanent. If you want it. The young man pulled out papers. You and your wife would have full legal rights as parents. The children would be yours in every way that matters. Rowan stared at the documents, unable to process. Eliza came out of the cabin, wiping her hands on her apron. What's happening? He's offering to let us adopt them, legally. Her eyes went wide. Truly? Judge wants to finalize it before winter. Says he's seen enough to know you're not going anywhere. The young man handed over the papers. Read through these. If you agree to the terms, sign them and bring them to town before month's end. The judge will make it official. After he left, Rowan and Eliza stood in the clearing, staring at the documents. This is it, Eliza said quietly. This makes them really ours. They were already ours. Not legally. This is different. Do you want to do it? Eliza looked at him like he was crazy. Of course I want to do it. Don't you? Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. That evening, they told the children. Samuel's reaction was immediate. You mean we'd be Hales? Really, truly Hales? If you want to be, Rowan said. What do you think, Anna? Samuel turned to his sister. Want to be Anna Hale? Anna looked between Rowan and Eliza, her face serious. Would that make you my real mama and papa? Not just pretend? We're already your real mama and papa, Eliza said. This just makes it official. So nobody can take us away? Nobody can take you away, Anna nodded solemnly. Then yes, I want to be Anna Hale. They signed the papers 2 weeks later, standing before Judge Whitmore in his chambers. McGrath was there as a witness again, grinning like a fool. I never thought I'd see the day, he said afterward. Rowan Hale, family man. Neither did I, Rowan admitted. You did good, both of you. Those kids are lucky. We're the lucky ones, Eliza said. Walking back through town, officially parents now, something felt different, settled, real in a way it hadn't been before. We're a real family now, Samuel said, holding the official adoption papers like they were treasure. We were always a real family, Eliza corrected. This just proves it to everyone else. That night, after the children were asleep, Rowan and Eliza sat outside under the stars. I never thought I'd have this, Rowan said. A wife, kids, a real home. Me neither. After I lost Lily and John, I thought that part of my life was over. You think they'd approve of all this? Eliza considered. John would like you. You're steady, honest, hardworking. Those were things he valued. And Lily? Lily would love the children. She always wanted siblings. Eliza's voice caught. I think she'd be happy knowing I found a way to be a mother again. You're a good mother, Eliza. I'm trying to be. Some days I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing. That's every parent, I think. They sat in comfortable silence, the mountains settling around them. Were you kind today? Eliza asked. I tried. She reached over, taking his hand. You were. You're kind every day. So are you. This time, when she squeezed his hand, she didn't let go. September brought the first hints of autumn. Crisp mornings, leaves starting to turn, geese flying south in long V formations. They began preparing for winter with the experience of people who'd survived one before. More wood, stacked higher, more food preserved, more supplies ordered from town. They weren't taking any chances this year. One evening, as they worked on winterizing the cabin, Samuel asked, Will it be as bad as last winter? Probably, Rowan said. Winter's winter, but we're more prepared this time. And we know what to expect, Eliza added. That makes it easier. Anna looked up from her sewing. I'm not scared this time. Why not? Samuel asked. Because we're together, and together we can do anything. The simplicity of her faith made Rowan's chest tight. That night, lying in his cot, he thought about how much had changed in less than a year. A desperate request in a saloon had turned into this: a family, a home, a life worth living. He heard movement and looked up to see Eliza standing there in her nightgown, wrapped in a shawl. Can I sit with you? She asked quietly. Yeah. She sat on the edge of his cot, close enough that he could feel her warmth. I've been thinking, she said, about us, about what we are. And I think I'm ready to stop being scared. Of what? Of caring too much, of loving too much, of letting this be real. She turned to look at him. I love you, Rowan. I have for months now. I was just too afraid to say it. His heart hammered against his ribs. I love you too. I know, you've shown me every day. She reached out, touching his face. I want this to be a real marriage. Not just on paper. Not just for the children. For us. You sure? I'm sure. He sat up, cupping her face in his hands. I don't know how to do this right. I never courted anyone. Never. She stopped him with a kiss. Soft, tentative, but sure. When they pulled apart, both of them were shaking slightly. That seemed right, she whispered. Yeah, it did. They sat there in the darkness, foreheads touching, breathing together. What happens now? Eliza asked. I don't know. We figure it out as we go? Like everything else. Like everything else. She kissed him again, longer this time. Then she stood, holding out her hand. Come to bed, real bed, with me. Rowan took her hand, following her to the room he'd built for her, the room that would now be theirs. The next morning, the children noticed immediately. Why was Pa in your room? Anna asked at breakfast. Eliza and Rowan exchanged glances. Because we're married, Eliza said simply. And married people share a room, Samuel frowned. But you didn't before. Things change, Rowan said. Is that all right with you? Samuel shrugged. I guess, as long as you're not weird about it. Define weird, Eliza said, fighting a smile. You know, mushy, like Mr. and Mrs. Patterson always holding hands and stuff. We might hold hands sometimes, Rowan said. That a problem? Anna grinned. I think it's nice. Mama and Papa should hold hands. See? Anna gets it, Eliza said. Samuel rolled his eyes but couldn't quite hide his smile. That winter was easier than the first. Not because the weather was milder, it wasn't, but because they knew what to expect. They knew how to ration, how to keep warm, how to occupy themselves during the long, dark months. And they had each other in a way they hadn't before. Rowan and Eliza, no longer dancing around what they meant to each other. Samuel and Anna, secure in their place as Hales, all four of them, bound together by choice and by love. Christmas that year was special. Rowan shot another turkey, and Eliza made those spiced cakes she'd told them about. She'd finally gotten the right ingredients from town. They hung spruce branches around the cabin, and Anna made decorations from scraps of fabric. Samuel gave everyone carvings he'd made in secret, a horse for Rowan, a bird for Eliza, a rabbit for Anna. Anna gave everyone embroidered handkerchiefs, her stitches still uneven but earnest. Eliza had sewn new shirts for both children and a new coat for Rowan. Rowan had made Eliza a jewelry box carved with flowers and birds. They sat around the fire that night, full and warm and happy. This is the best Christmas I ever had, Samuel declared. Me too, Anna agreed. Me too, Eliza said, looking at Rowan. He squeezed her hand. Yeah, me too. Spring came eventually, as it always did. The snow melted, the creek rose, the world turned green again. They planted a bigger garden this year, built a chicken coop, talked about maybe getting a cow. Judge Whitmore visited in April, making his annual inspection. But this time it was different. This time he could see what they'd built, not just the physical structures, but the family itself. You've done well, he said before leaving. Better than I ever expected. Thank you, Rowan said. Don't thank me. You did the work. Both of you. He tipped his hat. I won't be back unless you need me. As far as I'm concerned, this case is closed. After he left, Eliza turned to Rowan. It's really over. No more inspections, no more looking over our shoulders. Yeah, they're ours, really and truly ours. We did it. We did. That evening, sitting on the porch while the children played in the creek, Eliza leaned against Rowan's shoulder. Do you ever think about that night? She asked. In the saloon? Sometimes. What do you think? I think I was desperate. I think you were broken. I think neither of us knew what we were doing. And now? Now I think we were exactly what each other needed, even if we didn't know it. Eliza smiled. I'm glad I said yes. Me too. They watched Samuel teach Anna to skip stones, the late sun turning everything golden. Were you kind today? Eliza asked. It had become their ritual, their touchstone, the question that kept them honest, kept them trying. I tried to be, Rowan said. You were. You always are. So were you. I try. That's all any of us can do. The years that followed weren't easy. There were hard winters and failed crops and illnesses that scared them. There were arguments and mistakes and days when they all got on each other's nerves. But through it all, they held together. Samuel grew tall and strong, learning trapping from Rowan, eventually taking over most of the heavy work. He was 15 when he brought home a girl from town, shy, sweet, clearly terrified of meeting his parents. She's nice, the girl managed. Thank you, Eliza said, hiding her smile. So are you. Anna became a talented seamstress, her work eventually sought after in town. She was 13 when she announced she wanted to apprentice with the dressmaker in Bitterroot. It's what I love, she said, creating beautiful things. Then that's what you should do, Rowan said. The cabin expanded over the years. More rooms, a bigger kitchen, a real porch. It became a home that could hold not just the four of them, but the life they were building. McGrath visited often, becoming something like family. He was there when Samuel turned 16, when Anna finished her first dress, when Rowan and Eliza celebrated their 5th anniversary. Never thought I'd see it, he said at that anniversary dinner. Rowan Hale, domesticated. Domesticated, Rowan repeated, looking at Eliza across the table, at Samuel and Anna arguing good-naturedly about something. Yeah, I guess I am. Suits you. Yeah, it does. On their 10th anniversary, Eliza gave Rowan a gift, a book, bound in leather, filled with her handwriting. What's this? He asked. Our story. Everything from that night in the saloon to now. I've been writing it down, so we don't forget. Rowan opened it, reading the first page. In the unforgiving Wyoming frontier of 1874, a desperate man walked into a saloon and asked for help, and a broken woman said yes. What happened next was messy and hard and beautiful. What happened next was family. His throat went tight. This is our proof, Eliza finished, that broken things can be mended, that desperate requests can turn into something real, that kindness matters. Were you kind today? Rowan asked, the question automatic after 10 years. I tried to be. You were. You always are. They sat on their porch, watching the sun set over the mountain they'd made home. Samuel was in town with his girl. Anna was at her workbench, creating something beautiful from scraps. And Rowan and Eliza, two people who'd found each other in the dark and built something lasting in the light, held hands and watched another day end. I love you, Eliza said. I love you too. Think we'll make it another 10 years? I think we'll make it as long as we keep trying. That's all we've ever done, try. And it's been enough. More than enough. The stars came out one by one, filling the sky with light. Inside the cabin, lamps were lit, warmth spilling out into the darkness. The smell of dinner cooking, the sound of Anna humming while she worked. This was home. This was family. This was everything they'd never known they needed, built piece by piece from kindness and determination and love. Years later, people in Bitterroot still talked about that night in McGrath's saloon, about the desperate mountain man and the widow who saved each other, about the family that shouldn't have worked but did. They talked about it not because it was extraordinary, but because it proved something important, that families don't have to come from blood, that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real, that sometimes the best things in life come from the moments when you're too desperate to plan, too broken to be careful, and brave enough to say yes anyway. Samuel and Anna grew up, had families of their own, but they never forgot where they came from. Never forgot the cabin on the mountain where 2 strangers became parents and 2 orphans became children, and all of them became family. Anna told her own children the story, and they told theirs, and it became part of the family history. Not because it was neat or simple or easy to understand, but because it was true. And at the heart of it was a single question, asked every night for decades. Were you kind today? Because in the end, that was what mattered. Not grand gestures or perfect love stories. Just kindness. Day after day, year after year, trying to be better, trying to show up, trying to love the people you'd chosen and who'd chosen you. Rowan and Eliza lived on that mountain for 43 years. They raised Samuel and Anna, helped raise grandchildren and eventually great-grandchildren. They expanded the cabin into a proper house. They planted an orchard, built a barn, turned the homestead into something that would last. But what they were proudest of wasn't the physical things. It was the love they'd built, the family they'd created from nothing, the proof that broken people could heal together, that desperate choices could turn into beautiful lives. On Rowan's last day, at the age of 82, Eliza sat beside his bed, holding his hand. "Were you kind today?" she asked, her voice cracking. He smiled, the lines around his eyes deep from decades of laughter. "I tried to be." "You were. You were kind every day of your life. So were you. We did all right, didn't we? Better than all right. We did something that mattered." "I love you, Rowan Hale." "I love you too, Eliza Hale." He died with her hand in his, in the room they'd shared for over 40 years, in the home they'd built together. Eliza lived 3 more years, long enough to see Samuel's youngest get married, long enough to finish expanding the story she'd been writing, adding all the years they'd lived together. On her last day, surrounded by children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, she smiled. "Were you kind today?" Anna asked, tears streaming down her face. "I tried," Eliza whispered. "Every day I tried." "You were, Mama. You were always kind." Eliza closed her eyes, at peace. The cabin, now a house, still stands on that mountain. It's been added to, modernized, passed down through generations. But at its heart, it's still the same place where a desperate man and a broken woman built a family from nothing. And every generation that lives there learns the story. About the night in the saloon, about the hard winter, about the question that became a family motto. Were you kind today? Because that's what matters. Not where you come from or how you start. Not whether your family looks like other families or follows traditional paths. What matters is showing up, trying, being kind even when it's hard, building something real from whatever pieces you have. Rowan and Eliza proved that. Samuel and Anna proved that. And everyone who came after proved it too. Family isn't about blood, it's about choice. About looking at someone, or someone's, and deciding, yes, you're worth fighting for, worth trying for, worth loving, even when love is messy and imperfect and hard. That's the lesson. That's what endures. That in a harsh world where survival often comes first, kindness can be revolutionary. Love can be built, not just found. And family can be chosen, not just given. The story of Rowan and Eliza Hale is proof of that. Not a perfect story. Not a neat story, but a true one. A story about broken people who healed together, about children who needed love and adults who learned to give it, about a question asked every night for 43 years that kept them honest and kept them trying. Were you kind today? The answer, more often than not, was yes. And that made all the difference.